watch me.
I'm going live. I'm going live.
Okay, well, good afternoon. Make sure, Mike, everything is good. Check, check. All right, guys, welcome to Ride Along Live special program. Let me first apologize because the title that's on your screen right now is not actually what we're going to be speaking about. I realized that the description was typed incorrectly. Nevertheless, today is, at this point, we're waiting for the start of the Deacon Mitchell engagement with the diaspora. And so as you're coming, guys, go ahead and share the program. And this is the pre-show. So we're about to start very soon. The event is supposed to be starting very soon. To join with me here to discuss on the pre-show, we have a good friend of the Ride Along and a very popular media figure around the world. It's known all over the place. Kev Jones.
Hey, Papa.
How are you doing, my brother?
I'm fine.
Nice. Now listen, Kev, this seems like it's going to be big.
Well, look. Deacon has a history of attracting huge crowds, huge audiences. In other words, he has a vibes. Grenadians have been longing for that freshness, that newness. And it's here, and everybody is clinging on to it, and which is really good. So I expect a huge audience, not only in the United States of America, Canada, or the UK, but in the region, in the Caribbean. People have been calling me like crazy. Well, when the thing started, boy? When the thing started? So I'm happy that you're able to bring it, Junior, and I'm also sharing it on my platform through your feed.
Right.
Look, the diaspora is so important in going forward. We should have had that kind of engagement way before. Because I always say to friends, Junior, the diaspora should not be just for barrels, for remittances, and other little things like that. We have the kind of resource in the diaspora that can really help to build Grenada and develop Grenada. And seeing the engagement Deacon and the diaspora, that's a really good step in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. So that all our audio and visual and everything is good before we start. If you guys hear me fine, if everything is sounding good on your end, give us a thumbs up. Hence the reason why we started a little bit early, so we could ensure that when the main event start, it would be from start to finish, non-stop.
But
right?
Junior, is my audio okay?
Yeah, your audio seems fine on my end. I saw someone was saying that my audio, cam audio is terrible. Let me check. Hence the reason why we start a little bit early. Let's make sure that everyone's audio is fine. Let me just ensure you need to leave. Okay. Guys, we ain't started listen, we're here to listen Deacon and his engagement with the diaspora. No controversy, no problem, no drama. All right? Let me make sure everybody's audio is good. Hold on, Kevin. Let me check the audio.
Because I was getting a feedback earlier.
Nah, I think we're good now.
All right, wonderful.
I think we're good right now. Right. So yes, Kim. All right. Let me see. Boom. Everything is good. Thumbs up. Guys, give us a thumbs up. If you're hearing myself and you're hearing Kim good, give us a thumbs up.
Right. It seems as though because someone is saying, yeah, it's clearer now and it's better now.
Right. Okay. So there are many platforms that's carrying this broadcast at the moment. We also want to say hi to the folks that growing up in Grenada. They're also live on the link. They're going to be watching Kim Jones' platform. Just shared it, and this is where people would be engaging from the diaspora. Kim, let me ask you this question: how important do you think? And I think you mentioned it before, but I want you to exponent on it a little bit further. How important do you think the diaspora is in the political realm of in Grenada right now?
Well, I have stated time and time again that we have about, let's say, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 million Grenadians out there. First generation, second, third, fourth, you could just go all the way down. And the contribution that the diaspora can make and must make in shaping the political scene in this country, it must be felt this election, if not the other elections. Because remember, a lot of people left Grenada because they wanted to go on to greener pastures. They wanted betterment. They want to be able to get a piece of land, build a house, buy a car, have a good retirement, pension and so on. So they left here because that was not available here and it's still not available here. You can work in Grenada for donkey years and retire back into poverty. It's considered to be the working poor. That's the new slang in Grenada. So I am saying the diaspora have been calling on the people in the diaspora. You need to pick up that phone and speak to your relatives, speak to your friends, speak to your colleagues, explain to them certain things, guide them, let them get registered, let them participate in the process. You could imagine, Junior, 5 or 10 people in the diaspora calling back home and speaking to their relatives and friends who are eligible to vote. Let's say they speak to at least 2 or 3 people. You're looking at conversation with 30 to 40,000 registered voters, people who can actually decide who wins and who loses in the upcoming election. So we should not downplay the relevance and the importance of the diaspora. Not just for sending barrels and sending a little money and remittances. You have a part to play in this process. I have been speaking to some friends. I said, look, can you imagine a government, a party, engaging the diaspora so as to establish a bank of information on the skill set of Grenadians who are living in the diaspora? The
Yeah.
doctors, the nurses, the teachers, the police officers, the prison officers, the cleaners, the cooks, the chef, just name it. Just think about that. And when they get that little chance, if you coordinate properly, those specialists, they can come back to Grenada here, even if it's a 3 months or a 6 months. You give them the incentives, you make sure that they're taken care of, and they can help this country to grow and develop. We have a lot of skilled Grenadians living in the diaspora who want to come back and contribute meaningfully to the development of the country. But we need to engage, we need to at least be on the level playing field where they understand that we are not going to tax you as hard as we're going to create the incentives so that you're going to come and you're going to help build your country. And that is what I want to see. I was speaking to a friend in Miami. He said, Cam Jones, boy, I want to come back home. But what I see happening there, I want to come and let it victimize me and you have to go through this process and that process. In other words, it has to be a relationship forged with the diaspora and any government. In other words, it should be a strategic plan. It shouldn't be about NNP or NDC. It should be a strategic plan which says that the diaspora is no longer some desk in some ministry. But remember, I've been advocating for that. A minister responsible for diaspora affairs with a ministry and a PS and staff. So your work, your duty is to go out there, find out where all Grenadian brothers and sisters are in the diaspora, understand what they can contribute significantly to this country in terms of the skill set and other things like that. See how we can engage them so that they can come back and build factories and food processing plant and build this country. That is a must in going forward. Things are already tough. We need to move into that direction. The diaspora is very, very, very important in the development of this country. Very, very important. And it should not be just for remittances. And I repeat, it should not just be for remittances. I was going through some data And you know how much millions of dollars the diaspora does send back home here in Grenada, Junior? I'm talking about hundreds of $1 million annually, you know. When you look month end or a week or two, that's 2 days or 3 days before month end or maybe a week before month end, you look at MoneyGram and Western Union, the line making 20 around St. George's Day and around Foodland and all them kind of places. In other words, people depend on the diaspora to survive in this country, to get a hot meal in the morning, to get lunch during the midday, supper during the night, to pay the bills. And electricity high, water high, everything high in this country. I mean, diaspora is very, very important. I'm so happy. Junior, words cannot express how happy I am that Deacon Mitchell is engaging the diaspora in a meaningful way, saying to the diaspora, you have a role to play in the development of this country. And in moving forward, you will not just be a desk in a ministry, but instead, you will be a part of the process. And I'm really, really elated. I'm elated, Junior. Very, very elated.
Kem, what are some of the things you think that Deacon Mitchell would be addressing here today?
I think Deacon Mitchell is very focused as it relates to agriculture, how the diaspora can play a role in investing in that particular area, because you realize that nearly all the investors that come forward here in Grenada is just tourism, some big concrete structure down in the south. He is that kind of person who believes that agriculture needs to play a significant role in this COVIDious times and post-COVID and going forward. He believes that a new government will have to focus heavily, invest heavily on agriculture, and the diaspora must play a role. Our people understand the importance, the relevance of agriculture, because we actually grew up, many of the folks in the diaspora, they grew up, knowing their mother or grandmother or some family member with the cocoa, the nutmeg, the short crops, the citrus, that kind of stuff. In other words, we grew up knowing that, the white yam, that kind of thing. So I am saying he's pushing agriculture, and that's a very good thing. But if the diaspora, if the people in the diaspora can invest significantly in adding value to what we have. In other words, I want to go to the supermarket and see Made in Grenada. I want to see a Junior or somebody in the diaspora, Paul, or Philip, or Jane, a Grenadian, who can come back and invest significantly in a food processing plant, in an agro processing plant, in a fish processing plant, adding value. Because agriculture is no longer break back, it's about incorporating information communication technology and make it sexy so that the young people can gravitate towards it. So I believe you'll be talking a lot about that. Healthcare, healthcare. We cannot overemphasize that. Come on, we should be the hub for healthcare in the whole region, and maybe even the world. We have SGU here, where you have so many people who are graduating and going to the bigger countries and contributing meaningfully towards the development of those countries. If we give the proper incentives, our folks in the diaspora will invest in the development of our country when it comes to clinics, hospitals, a teaching hospital facility. We have so many doctors and nurses and retired specialists. They can contribute significantly. So healthcare, agriculture. I know you'll be speaking a lot about climate change and clean energy and so on. I know some people will be concerned about Grenlec, right, and cheaper electricity and how we can move into the next frontier, the next direction, because we have to go in a different path. I think you'll be speaking about a number of things, but I know agriculture, education, healthcare, those are priority, and how the diaspora can play a role in developing this country. We have known this same old, same old, same old. We got to move from that. We need to move to the next level, and the diaspora must be center. Let me repeat: we need a minister of diaspora affairs. That's your only responsibility. Not no minister of this, and you have about 5 different ministries. Your responsibility is to work with our Grenadian brothers and sisters in the diaspora. You have a full staff with a PS and a full staff, right? Where you coordinate, you work together with our people to build this country in the diaspora. I really want to see that, and I think Deacon is on of that view that we need to engage the diaspora meaningfully. I want our embassies all around the world, Junior, to be a Grenadian inside there by, the consul generals and the ambassadors and so on. I want a Grenadian to be there. We need to work with the diaspora. I am fed up with this kind of notion that the folks in the diaspora, they're only good for certain things. So barrels, when you want something like a piggy bank, you run up New York, you run Canada, you run England, and you collect barrels and containers of stuff and this and that. And in fact, I was saying to a friend, look at the role the diaspora has played during this pandemic period. Let me tell you this, Junior. The food stuff and so on that I'm giving out, the hampers that I'm giving out to, people in need. It came from the diaspora. It came from Mr. and Mrs. Lewis in United States of America. That's Utrice Henry Lewis and her husband. It came from Eric Benjamin. That's Greens. Well, you know Greens Auto. It came from other people in the diaspora. Kathleen, and our family. I mean, so many people out there who continue to give people and support people. They get a package of food stuff and they're happy. So look, I am saying to people, the diaspora must play a role. Look at my background. Fig tree, black stage all in front of me here. So that black stage, Junior. You ever drink some black stage tea with some brown sugar?
You
Or if
just
you
put
don't
in
want to put brown sugar, it's up to you.
the
You
blacks.
lemon grass on the ground there, so you understand what I'm saying? Well, watch me make a lot of people in the diaspora come back tomorrow. The environment is so nice. I am saying that you're relevant. You have a role to play in the development of this country, and I don't want them to just take you for granted. When time for election and they want thing, they come up and they just take things and no. We need to engage you meaningfully. Meaningfully. Look at Trevor Lane, for example, Junior. Have you heard about him? The oncologist?
Yes.
The-
Oh, yes. Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
This guy got nearly everything to set up this facility to treat cancer and to deal with that. You understand what I'm saying? Junior, up to now, they just giving the man a run. And the United States, they have the man above them, they happy. You can imagine if that man could set up here a facility to deal with cancer and to treat cancer patients and so on.
Pilgrimage, land of ours, we pledge ourselves to thee. And hearts and hands in unity to teach our destiny. The conscience of the dawn, proud of our heritage, may with faith and courage aspire, build, advance as one people, one family. God bless our nation.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special get-together. I'm Ricardo Keynes Douglas, and I've been invited to host this event, and it gives me great pleasure to be your host. This evening, we are connecting from Grenada, the beautiful Isle of Spice, to our brothers and sisters in the diaspora and beyond. This is brought to you by the New York chapter of the National Democratic Congress in collaboration with members of the diaspora. This evening, we will get to meet and know a little bit more about the new political leader of the National Democratic Congress. We want to welcome you all the Grenadians in the diaspora and friends who are logged in from continent to continent and multiple time zones from around the world. Thank you for being here and taking the time to be part of all of this. This is also the first in a series of conversations designed for you, the viewer, to meet the new elected political leader for the NDC and to create an open channel of discussion and dialogue as we go forward in the future. We will also get a chance to learn more about the political leader's vision for the governance of Grenada and how that vision affects all of you in the diaspora. Once this party secures such a mandate from citizens like yourself, all will be moving along nicely. And at the end, we will take time, to answer some questions. And I know the winter is creeping in slowly in some of the places at where you are, but I just know that the moment you think of Grenada, Carriacou, Petit Martinique, it's going to warm you up. So I hope you're all comfortable, relaxed, full of good energy, and ready to be part of a very exciting journey. Brothers and sisters of the diaspora and beyond, it gives me wonderful pleasure to introduce to you the new political leader of the National Democratic Congress, Mr. Deacon Mitchell. Welcome, Mr. Mitchell. How are you today?
I am excellent. Thank you, Ricky, for having me. Thank you for agreeing to host this event. And I want to say a special good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning, because I believe in some parts of the diaspora it may be morning. And I look forward to the discussion and I look forward to the discourse with our friends, citizens, well-wishers, and supporters in the diaspora.
Now, you came onto the scene like a shooting star. And for me, as we all know that a shooting star is good energy. Because the moment you see a shooting star, you make a wish, and most wishes are very positive. So that's a very, very good sign. So now that you're on the political scene in the world, a lot of people don't know who Deacon Mitchell is. All of a sudden, there's this guy called Deacon Mitchell. He's a lawyer, blah, 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 and everybody wants to know. We know a little bit about you, your friends and stuff, but the people out there around the world would like to know a little bit more about you. So you can just tell us where you're from, a little bit of your education.
Sure. Deacon Mitchell grew up in St. David in a small street village known as P.T. Esperance. I grew up in a household that was headed by women, my grandmother, who thankfully is still alive today, my mother, my aunt, my brothers, sisters, and several cousins. We grew up at a time when village life was vibrant, active. We grew up at a time where you were able to walk to school, and I went to the St. David's RC school. Mm-hmm. So I walk to school on mornings, walk back home at lunch for lunch, and then walk back in for the afternoon sessions. The St. David's RC School is located very close to the Bellevue Plain Field or Bellevue Pasture, along with the Bellevue Community Center. So I spent considerable periods of time in the afternoons playing football, playing cricket, engaging in athletics, and just having fun as a young person with my friends, cousins, and colleagues in the neighborhood. So P.T. Esperance in St. David holds a very, very special and dear place in my heart, because that's where I formed my formative years.
Right.
After I moved on to Presentation College for my high school years, I lived for a couple of years in Laborie as well, in St. George's. So I spent quite a bit of time in Laborie, and so Laborie is also a place that's quite fun for me. Presentation College, like every college boy, I think really and truly represented a signal period of my life. Most of my lifelong friends come out of Presentation College, both those who were in class with me and those who were ahead and in some instances behind me. And behind me because after I finished Presentation College, I went to TMR Community College. I did my A-levels there, and then I went back to teach at Presentation Brothers College. And so in teaching, there were some young college students who, in fact, I went to school with, and in 2 years' space of time, had the opportunity to come back and teach them. And so they were not just my students, but my colleagues as well. And they also became my friends. And I have some lifelong friends, one of whom is involved in the NDC New York chapter today, as part of that process. And so education, and I highlight this because education has been the hallmark of what has helped to transform my life. Education, along with strong family values, and I think crucially, a sense of community, a sense of what the village does in raising myself and many of my cousins, many of my extended family and friends. And so for me, in a true sense, Grenada, the good parts of Grenada is reflected in our education system. It's reflected in our village life, in our community life, because it really does take our village and our communities to raise each of us.
Yeah. You know, if I'm not mistaken, I think you studied economics, right?
Yes. So, you know, when I was
just curious from economics to
law.
To law.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would say this. One of my favorite subjects in high school in particular was that of history. And in studying history, particularly Caribbean history, you recognize that the economy and the plantation economy that we inherited in the Caribbean, essentially was a very unique feature of Caribbean society and Caribbean development. And so I was always curious as to how economics, the study of resources, influence our lives. And so notwithstanding my love for history, when I did A-levels, you always have to choose.
Right.
I think just instinctively, I was always a very good history student. And at the time, history clashed with economics. And so I pursued history formally during the 2-year period when I was at National College. But because I loved economics so much, I actually asked a private tutor after I'd completed my A-levels to help me with doing economics at A-levels.
Right.
So while teaching at Presentation Brothers College and while studying law, I also pursued getting an A-level in economics because and even today, I'm still fascinated by how you allocate scarce resources to meet the needs of a society or the needs of a household or a village, as the case might be. So that is really what drove me to pursue studying economics. It's still a subject I'm fascinated with, notwithstanding that I went on to, in fact, pursue law at the University of the West Indies. So in 1998, I left Grenada, went to Cable Campus, University of the West Indies, completed my law degree there, and then I journeyed to Trinidad and Tobago, where I studied. I passed the bar at the Hewarding Law School, and I returned to Grenada in 2002. And since then, until recently, I've been a practicing attorney at law in Grenada.
And a very successful one, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes. A true Caribbean man, because you didn't go further in the Caribbean to get your degrees and stuff. That's fantastic. Now, what led you to become politically involved? Was it something that was just milling around in your head, or you just woke up one day and you just had this revelation that something has to be done and I want to be part of it?
No, I think my education and my love for history, my love for economics, meant I always had an interest in politics, in sociology, in the history of our regions. And particularly when you study what I would call the modern history of the Caribbean, it is clear that we've had some remarkable citizens, not just in politics, but in arts, in sports, in culture, who have really stood up to create the Caribbean civilization. And we have to face the reality that our civilization came out of essentially a very dark period, that of slavery, colonization, dehumanization, dependency, an inferiority complex, racism. Yet still, our ancestors fought all of this to forge a Caribbean society based on democracy, freedom, respect for human rights, the respect for private property. And so when you read your history, it sometimes gives you chills because you recognize how much people have sacrificed to give us the life we have today. And so throughout my schooling, I would have been influenced by a number of teachers who really lit that flame in me to recognize that you cannot take the society you live in for granted. And particularly in Grenada's case, when we look at some of our turbulent modern history, you recognize the kinds of sacrifices that person has made, including sacrificing their lives, so that we could in fact have a better society. So I was always intrigued and interested in public life. But as to what made me get involved directly, I think more and more as I reflected on what was taking place in our society, I think we've gotten to a point where many persons are even afraid to just speak up. They're afraid to voice their opinions. They're afraid to associate, to assemble. and to get involved. And to me, once that is the state of play, it leaves us in a dangerous situation where, in fact, the very things that are crucial to the growth and continued prosperity of a society or democracy is at threat. And so I recognized that I was in a unique position where I felt I could, in fact, get involved, I could make a contribution, and therefore it was important that I not just talk privately or be critical of others, but that, in fact, you stand up and be counted and to begin that process. And that really was the motivating factor.
Oh, great. Okay, I knew you just joined the NDC, but was it your intention to go for PL, for political leader? Was it?
No, not at all. In fact, when I joined the NDC, I think the sole goal I had was to encourage other persons to join.
Okay.
And I think by me joining, because it was important to lead by example.
Right.
Encouraging persons to join a political party, if you are not joining yourself, seems almost hypocritical. Because most people view politics as a risky business. And in some cases, that is what, unfortunately, our society has suggested, that if you get involved in politics, it's a bad thing, it's a dirty thing. And so you recognize the hesitancy and reluctance of well-meaning citizens to get involved. So for me, it was important to lead by example. And I felt that by joining in an open manner, it will give me the credibility to encourage others to join. And that really was the first goal, to encourage other persons to join the organization, to assist with rebuilding the organization, with building capacity, and with beginning the process of commencing change within the organization. And that was really the motivating factor.
Right. But I mean, there were so many other parties you could have joined. So I was just curious to know, why did you choose the NDC?
Right. I think two reasons. The core values of the NDC matter to me, and that was instrumental. Two, notwithstanding the many challenges the National Democratic Congress had gone through, the fact is the National Democratic Congress, in my view, at the time, represented one of only two real options in terms of national political organizations. And I stress national because you have a lot of other smaller political organizations, which in my view do not have any national relevance or national ambitions. And so I felt it was important that you had to assess which party best reflected your goals, your views, your values, and the National Democratic Congress best represented that. Second, I was clear in my mind that there was an opportunity to begin the process of changing the National Democratic Congress. And I'm not going to apologize for that, because I think we all have to recognize that change is inevitable. Growth particularly is important, and that the National Democratic Congress needed to grow, needed to improve, and needed to change if it was to recapture the imagination and the hearts of Grenadians. And so when I joined and when I encouraged others to join, it was partly with that goal in mind. As it relates to the other national political organization, I think the record is clear to see that change is not something that has happened within that organization, certainly over the last 3 or so decades. And so if one was being purely objective and purely analytical, the probability of joining that organization and inspiring change, I think, was next to zero, minus zero. So from that perspective, just being objective, I think it was quite clear that the only choice really was the National Democratic Congress.
Okay, great. No, I mean, we're coming to the segment, but I have to ask you a question. Being an artist and in the performing arts and outside in the diaspora, there are tons of performers out there in Grenada. I'd like to ask you, I want to show you this. Where do you think your vision, I want to know, for the performing arts in Grenada? How is it you think is important for the nation?
Well, I will start with value. The performing arts adds dignity and value to us as human beings. And we can't underestimate that. And so once you're building a civilization, the performing arts ought to be a critical part of that. Right. And we need to understand that for the psyche of our people, for the pride of our people, for the creativity of our people. And that is what we have, our people. And I recall, I don't know if you remember this, but when I was in Cave Hill, the Grenada Association in Barbados had actually invited you to do a play, I think, or spoken word at one of the events they had. And I recall, and I was involved in the association at the time because I was in Cave Hill, and I recall watching you perform and, in a sense, watching you transfix us in the audience. And it really took you away from whatever stress, whatever issues that were plaguing you at the time. And we have to recognize, just from that perspective, the value of the performing arts, the creative arts. But outside of that, we seem not to appreciate the vast economic opportunities that are available to us arising from the performing arts and the creative arts. And I think we therefore have to truly recognize that, expose our people to that, educate our people to that, and to create the policy and the legal framework that would really support the performing arts as a central pillar of our economic activity in Grenada. And regrettably, I think over the last, perhaps I almost feel 30 years of my life, I certainly felt as a child that the performing arts played a far more crucial role in the fabrics and the life of Grenada in all forms, drama, dance, music. I'm certainly growing up in schools, the performing arts seem to have been a far more central part of our lives than it is today. And just starting from there, I think we really have to transform that. And I can give you several examples. You know, we didn't have a carnival during COVID-19 2020. But to me, we lost the opportunity to, in fact, teach the technical aspects of carnival, songwriting, learning music, playing mass, creating mass, creating costume. We could have used the opportunity, notwithstanding that there was no carnival, really to begin teaching that process amongst our young persons, costume making. We can go on and on, teaching the history of our traditional mass, what it means, how do you make it. If we don't do those things, it goes back to this whole question of who we are as a people, what makes us different, how do we distinguish and identify ourselves? And if we don't recognize that the performing arts, perhaps more than anything else, plays that central role in defining us, then we will really not be building the Grenadian or for that matter Caribbean civilization that we should be building.
Excellent. I can guarantee the artists and performing arts listening out there, they're going to be very happy. Another thing, we need a national theatre. So I'm just dropping all these little seeds.
Absolutely.
Performers in Grenada.
And that's part of, and that's part of the discourse we need to have, because it's the persons who are most primarily involved in any given sector should really be the ones driving the policy and influencing the policy. The politicians ultimately should be reflecting that which the persons and the people want, not what you have in your own head as a politician. And so as someone who's an icon and a cultural ambassador, it really behoves those who wish to make public policy for us to sit, listen, and hear you, and then implement the things that would really make the difference, because you know what you're talking about, and oftentimes we don't, certainly when it comes to those areas. So I certainly welcome advice, discussions, suggestions with all of our artists, all of our creative people. And I said, not just those who actually perform, but those who are involved in the technical and the production aspect of things as well, because again, it's an opportunity for us to teach our young persons about careers, non-traditional careers that they may not have thought about, in terms of things like music producing, film, video. The PRO of the National Democratic Congress, Mr. Romain, is very passionate about that. And that's one of the things we need to promote, because he's a perfect example of how you can become successful in those areas.
Right. Well, Mr. Political Leader, it's been a pleasure chatting with you, and congratulations once again, and all the best in the future. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
Oilong is we thing. Nobody could copy that. That is we national dish. Grenada's national dish. This one-pot delicacy embodies our heritage, character, friendliness, and joy. Each ingredient brings with it a story of its own.
It's a melange of our tumultuous history, our passion as a people, and the love for a little socialization. Fortunately, no get-together is a good get-together without a pot of oil, onion, and rum.
But that's a story for another time.
At the heart of this dish is breadfruit, introduced to us by Captain William Bligh. You could find a tree in every backyard.
Along with breadfruit is fig. That's what we call green bananas.
And grown provisions like yams, dashi, and whatnot. No, this is just my opinion, but you can't make oil without meat. Some people do, and that's fine, but you must have some meat in it. Pigtail, chicken, a little salt beef, crab, or wild meat like iguana, or even saltfish.
No, with the saltfish, you have to soak it good, because you don't want to salt the pot. You must also try not to eat out all before you finish prep the other ingredients. That is problems.
Now, the saltfish, originally cod, was meant as a cheap source of food for the slaves. But today, saltfish is Mr. Saltfish. So put some respect on it.
Anyways, dumplings must not be forgotten. Very important. You see, making dumplings is an art. Can't be too hard or too soft, can't be too big or too small. It can't be too sweet or too salty. It must be just right. All you need is a little flour, salt, and water. That is how we like it. Now, to pack the pot, that is the real skill. You must artfully stack all these ingredients in your pot and cloak it in callaloo. Let it simmer slowly in a bath of coconut milk, turmeric, which was introduced to us by South Asian immigrants, curry, and other seasonings. Why? Pure perfection.
At Independence time, you can find pots of oil long smoldering on an open fireside in every community. Look out for the savory aroma and people lining by the pot with their bowl leaf, fig leaf, or plate, whichever is your choice.
This dish is Grenada's fingerprint. Each pot possesses its own unique flavor. You see oil down? That's a Grenadian thing.
In due time, the polls will open and democracy will call on us to make a choice.
A choice between prosperity and false promises.
We all desperately crave change and progress, but progress favors the prepared.
What does it mean to be prepared?
It means to get registered.
Voting is your right, but you can only take part in the process if you are registered.
Registration is the first individual move you have to take if you want to contribute to the collective effort of national transformation.
Registration is how you can ensure your voice is heard.
Registration is a step in the right direction to bring benefits to all people.
To experience meaningful change.
Registration and voting is the only way to actualize our vision.
Our vision of more jobs and opportunities.
Our vision of better health and a robust agricultural sector.
Our vision of prosperity and nation building.
The ink we must use to rewrite our destiny.
To start a new chapter in our nation's history.
Is in the voters' booth.
And only the registered. And only the registered.
And only the registered have access.
Change begins with registration.
Get registered today.
To get registered, visit your parliamentary electoral office in your constituency. For assistance with registration, call 435-1817 or visit our website at www.bringthevote.com.
Welcome back once again. Here we are with our political leader, Mr. Deacon Mitchell. But also, this evening is also to start a fundraising event, right? So we can get to connect with each other in the diaspora. So right now, I will say farewell to you, and I'm going to bring on the man of the hour who will get you out there to get excited to support the National Democratic Congress and the new political leader. So I say farewell and Merry Christmas.
And good evening to one and all. From a wonderfully sunny Grenada, the sun is just about going down, and we want to bid you, wherever you are, welcome to our life. Now, as George Brizan used to say, one cocoa will fill the basket. Fundraising is a fundamental part of any campaign because campaigns generate significant costs to ensure that every qualified voter is armed with information needed to make an informed choice going into the polls. This requires media campaigns that help to get the party's message out to every eligible voter in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite-Martinique, and to the wider region and diaspora. This requires significant advertising, printing, mobilization, transportation, office spaces, etc. So the party relies on support from its members, allies, partners, and friends to make this possible. Tonight, our political leader will stress how important the support of people like you are to the success of the National Democratic Congress and launch its official fundraising campaign, ensuring that people at home and abroad who are actively seeking change in how our beautiful tri-island state is governed and managed going forward can support this effort. By providing resources through fundraising, it brings us closer to seeing the change that we may want by supporting the party of your choice. Throughout this evening's session, information on how you get involved will be displayed on the bottom screen, and I invite you to write it down and share it with friends and colleagues who may have missed tonight's broadcast. The information will remain on screen throughout the duration of the program.
Hi guys, we're back here at Master Control here in New York as we seem like there is a small internet issue there, plague there. We're waiting, and as soon as the event continue, we are going to be bringing it back to you live right here. Again, this is a full coverage of the Deacon Mitchell. It's right here. Deacon Mitchell engages the diaspora. It's a fundraising event and also a launch. There's so many people that's watching this broadcast as well on the YouTube, on the Facebook. There are multiple platforms that's carrying it live. And we are putting out this program as a special paid program here by the NDC. I'm assuming that they'll be back soon. It seemed like there was just a quick break in the broadcast here from Grenada end. But I want you guys to chime in a little bit because we're at 37 minutes into the program. And give me a call while they figure out the audio system down there. Give me a call and let me know what you think about it thus far. Let me know how you feel thus far. How do you think things are going?
On contributions, donations,
the
time, the effort, and the resources of our citizens at home and in the diaspora. And therefore, for the political organization to in fact function and meet its basic obligations, we are completely reliant on donations, we are completely reliant on fundraising activities, and we are completely reliant on the time, the resources, both material and human, of our citizens and our friends in the diaspora. So from a fundamental basis, in order for the organization to be resourced, we in fact need your help and your assistance in order to do so. Secondly, we really wish to transform the National Democratic Congress into an organization that its members and its membership fund. And this is critical because we want to ensure that the policies of the National Democratic Congress, that the issues that the National Democratic Congress champions are issues that matter to us, the ordinary citizens of Grenada. And it is therefore critical that going forward, we are able to in fact finance our organization through the ordinary membership, the ordinary contributions, and the ordinary donations of our membership. And this is very important because we do not want to risk our political organizations being captured by one or two big donors or one or two unknown persons who may fund the political party and indirectly control its policies, its goals, and the issues that it holds important to it, which may not be those issues that the average Grenadian, both in the diaspora and in Grenada, finds important. And so we really want to be transparent and clear in how we go about raising funds. And that means raising funds through a forum like this, where we appeal to our citizens in the diaspora, we appeal to our friends in the diaspora, we appeal to our associates in the diaspora to help fund the National Democratic Congress. And we are not asking for massive or large donations. Of course, if you're able to do so, we would welcome it. But really the aim is to initiate the process of grassroots funding of our political organization so that our political organization reflects the issues that are important to our citizens. And while this is the first initiative by which we are doing so, we really do hope on a monthly basis to ask citizens in the diaspora, to ask citizens in Grenada to continue making monthly small contributions to the National Democratic Congress so that we can meet our obligations. There's also another important aspect that I want to highlight. Although we've had political institutions and organizations existing since independence, and in some cases before independence, many of these political organizations concentrate their efforts around elections. And we want to be able to move beyond that. We want to be able to ensure that the political organizations are always active in our communities, always active in our societies, not just at election time. And in order to do so, we need to be able to maintain and staff constituency offices so that these constituency offices become the center point of our engagement with the communities. You know, we have many senior citizens, for example, who don't even have a place to go to on evenings or on weekends to sit on a park, to sit on a bench, to play a game of cards, or to just socialize or have an ice cream. And we want to get to a point where our constituency branch offices are used for those purposes. We have many citizens here who have graciously agreed to, in some cases, underwrite the cost of the constituency offices by discounting the rent. We want to be able to use those areas, not just for politicking or politics, but in fact to be a true part of our communities, so that at Christmas time, our kids can come and engage in social activities, so that our youth can be trained in various aspects of political work, civil work, social work, volunteer work. And in order to do so, we clearly need the resources. And as I said, the point is we want to be transparent in the process. And the best way to be transparent is to ensure that we get small contributions from as many concerned citizens in the diaspora and in Grenada as possible. So I really do want to encourage you to use the link available to in fact donate to the National Democratic Congress.
And so, brothers and sisters, you have heard it from our political leader. You must understand how important this is, because democracy must be financed, and it must be financed by the people who will benefit from the democracy. Yes, and that is you, every citizen of Grenada. So to donate, you can go to www.ndcgrenada.org/fundraiser. Let's repeat that. To donate, go to www.ndcgrenada.org/fundraiser. So, diaspora. The diaspora is a word of Greek origin, meaning to sow over or scatter. Over the past decade or so, diaspora has become a term of self-identification among people who have migrated to other places. Some folks might never come back to the country of their birth, but they have retained their emotional, cultural, and spiritual links with their home country. And no matter what, that umbilical cord is never broken. There is a wealth of talent, resources, and skills in the diaspora that are eager to join the mission to serve their country. Successful Grenadians who love their country and who are tired of their contributions being limited to just sending much needed items home. But they are now prepared to step forward and have their voices and votes counted in the movement towards change. The NDC's goal is to build a better nation and lay the infrastructure that will make it easier for returning nationals to be welcomed back. Welcomed back to a country where it's easier to do business, where we have better healthcare systems and provide avenues where skill sets can be shared with the next generation. Very important. And so we come to question time. Pierre, can you elaborate about your thoughts on how important the diaspora is to the country and what role they play in nation building?
Thank you, Randall. Let me start first by, I think, expressing gratitude on my own behalf, on behalf of the National Democratic Congress, to the diaspora for making this event possible, because the idea to host this event in the first place came from the diaspora. And I think that in and of itself is testimony to the value of the diaspora to us in Grenada and to the National Democratic Congress. But I want to identify something that I've observed, and I think it's critical for us to recognize that the relationship between the diaspora and the homeland must be a relationship that is mutually beneficial, both to the homeland and to the diaspora. We in Grenada have benefited over the several decades from the diaspora contributing particularly material items to Grenada. But I often hear the frustration of the diaspora when they feel, and in many instances rightly so, that they are treated with scant regard, with scant respect, and that their contributions are not valued. And the National Democratic Congress wants to make it clear that under the National Democratic Congress administration, that type of approach, that type of policy will be reversed. Citizens of Grenada are citizens of Grenada regardless of where they live. And we also have to understand that when a citizen of Grenada migrates, oftentimes his sense of identity is more crucial to him than ever before. And therefore, he needs to ensure that he identifies more. And oftentimes, there's a common saying that the further away you are from Grenada, the more patriotic you are, because you then truly appreciate why it is important to have a cultural identity. And so the diaspora, oftentimes, as I said, is perhaps more patriotic, more keen to assist and to help in improving Grenada. And we need to recognize that, we need to appreciate that, and crucially, we need to make sure that our policies in Grenada support that and make it easy and efficient for the diaspora to help, not just by sending money back, not just by sending barrels of stuff back, not just by sending health equipment and health assistance back, but by truly appreciating that our members in the diaspora are living in societies that are far more sophisticated, that are far more complex, and therefore we need to value their experience and their skill set in assisting us in Grenada in meeting the challenges of addressing the complex issues we face in this world. And given our limited size, it's a common joke that there are more Grenadians in New York than there are Grenadians in Grenada. And I say it's a joke, but it's probably true. So we need to recognize that. And I think that's the starting point in truly appreciating the fact that wherever a Grenadian is, he's a Grenadian and he should be treated as such. I then want to highlight the fact that we need to eliminate a lot of the bottlenecks that members of the diaspora face when returning home to help, and to ensure that they are not frustrated and leave and go back and oftentimes wonder why they even offered to help in the first place. Because almost 90% of the time, it is genuinely help. It is not a desire to benefit personally. It is not a desire to show anyone up in Grenada. It's a desire to help. And sometimes there may be cultural clashes because, perhaps in New York, we talk about the New York minute and everything happens at a much faster pace, and you come to Grenada and we are still in island time or island life. And so both sides would need to recognize that we have to acclimatize in those circumstances. But I think truly a lot of the bottlenecks that we place and which prevent the diaspora from truly helping has to be addressed and has to be eliminated as much as possible. But the third aspect that I really think it's important for us to appreciate is the knowledge, the skill set, and the experience and connections that members of the diaspora have, which we need to truly help transform Grenada. And I want to make this point because I think if we examine our political history, we will understand how crucial the diaspora is to Grenada. Sir Eric Matthew Geary came back to Grenada after having lived outside of Grenada. Maurice Bishop, Bernard Code, and many of the leadership of the PRG period came back to Grenada after having lived in Grenada. Our incumbent Prime Minister came back to Grenada after having lived outside of Grenada. And that tells you something. It tells you that the exposure and the experience that you get from living outside of Grenada oftentimes creates the desire in you to lead. It creates and it gives you the experience and the skill set to be able to come back to Grenada to help transform, for better or for worse, Grenada. And that is critical for us to understand, because if we are going to truly grow and develop, we have to be prepared to keep an open mind. We need the exposure. We need the skill set that is required. And from that perspective alone, I think we need to be able to mine the skill sets, the talent, the experience of the diaspora to help us not just materially, but politically as well. This is crucial, and to help us develop our political institutions so that they can bring the sort of stability and growth that we need within the diaspora. Related to that, and I've said this and I'm going to repeat it, given the challenges we have with limited resources in Grenada, I think we can certainly use the diaspora to staff a significant portion of our diplomatic and consular offices throughout the world. I'm not just saying New York or the United States, I'm saying throughout the world, because there are Grenadians living throughout the world who are very successful. And I'm sure would welcome the opportunity to help, and in many cases, underwrite the cost for the state of these consular and diplomatic offices. And so we should really be looking to Grenadians first, rather than non-Grenadians, I think, throughout the world to help us with our diplomatic and consular missions. Because why? They would have that sense of natural patriotism. You're not buying it. They're giving it because they are Grenadians first and foremost. Second, if they are successful, it means they are probably likely to underwrite or be willing to assist in underwriting the cost of those issues, of these offices and the personnel associated with it. And so you don't have to run the risk of people saying that you are appointing conmen or persons of questionable character to hold Grenadian passports and so on, because you are essentially asking Grenadians to do so. And I think just that alone, from a point of view of appreciation, I think will encourage even more Grenadians in the diaspora to be prepared to help and serve Grenada, because it truly reflects that you're looking for genuine partnership. In the area of foreign direct investment, we always talk about how important foreign direct investment is to Grenada. But if we pay careful attention, I think the diaspora is the biggest group when it relates to foreign direct investment in Grenada. It is Grenadians who live overseas who are going to come back and build in Grenada, who are going to be sending monies back to Grenada, who are sending vehicles, clothing. I mean, you could name it. And I think if we pay particular attention and really crunch the numbers on that, we would see that the diaspora as a group is perhaps the single biggest direct foreign investor in Grenada. And therefore, when we are looking to develop Grenada, to me, that is the group we should be looking to first, before we go looking for persons from other parts of the world. And it is only when we exhaust this, and I just say, I don't think we will be able to exhaust it, because there are many, many successful Grenadians throughout the length and breadth of the world. And I think we give them the opportunity to invest in Grenada if we allow them to help us to create the kinds of products that persons can invest in Grenada. I think we would make a significant dent in ensuring that we can grow the pie in Grenada and in ensuring that we can correct some of the structural issues that we have in Grenada. So those are just some of the areas that I think the diaspora can help in. I mean, they're the obvious ones that they've done so traditionally, remittances. To a large extent, I think Grenada has remained a stable society, notwithstanding the high unemployment rates, because persons' lifestyle and livelihood are underwritten in many instances, entire households and perhaps a large percentage of villages by Grenadians who work through thick and thin in New York, in London, in Canada, to assist their cousins, their brothers, their sisters, their parents home. And so it's incumbent upon us who are the benefactors of this to truly be appreciative of it and to truly say thank you to the members of the diaspora. And it's important for us as a government, I think, to also recognize that and to continue policies that would facilitate, for example, the easy remittances that would facilitate our diaspora members reinvesting in Grenada, and to create and identify projects that the diaspora would be interested in. And I think that is part of the challenge we face here, where we do not, in fact, come with or identify areas or projects that members of the diaspora can help with. And worse yet, when members of the diaspora do identify it, they don't get the support that is required, whether it's support in concessions or support in sometimes just moral support or just public advocacy on their behalf. And I am personally aware of many instances where members of the diaspora have come back to Grenada and have invested sometimes to the tune of millions of dollars in projects here. And for silly reasons, really, these projects are not as successful as they ought to be. And it pains me because you recognize that when that happens, you increase the risk that our citizens outside of Grenada may feel discouraged or disenchanted to get involved in Grenada. And so having witnessed firsthand many of these instances, it's really incumbent upon us as citizens of Grenada, and certainly the National Democratic Congress will lead in that, in ensuring that we truly turn the corner on how we view the diaspora and ensure that the diaspora is an integral part of nation building in Grenada. So Randall, I know I've said a lot. I hope members of the diaspora would forgive me if I talk too much.
No, but I mean, you have hit the nail on the head. We tend to want to differentiate between our citizens and so look, you are a citizen of Grenada, and so entitled to all that Grenada can provide for you and wherever you are. And usually, as you have said, those in the diaspora seem to love the place more than we do. So I want to say, yes, it's really important that you continue, all of you out there viewing, that you continue to support Grenada and what it is we want to do. And so I wanted to remind you about how to donate. Yes? So to donate the funds, go to ndcgrenada.org/fundraiser. On this platform, you can send payments using PayPal or using your credit card. Checks in the USA can be made payable to the NDC New York chapter. That's NDC New York chapter, mailed to P.O. Box 250703, Brooklyn, New York 11225. I will repeat that. Checks in the USA can be made payable to NDC New York chapter, and they can be mailed to P.O. Box 250703, Brooklyn, New York 11225. Checks in Grenada can be made payable to NDC and mailed to P.O. Box 1109, Grand Anse, St. George. Checks in Grenada, make them payable to NDC, mailed to P.O. Box 1109, Grand Anse, St. George. And we really have to continue to stress how important the diaspora is to the country and must never be taken for granted. You are important, and every small gesture towards nation building is of enormous value. And we really appreciate what you continue to do, what you have done in the past, and what you will continue to do in the future for this lovely isle we call home. So the new political leader and his team, family, party is depending very much on you for your support. At this juncture, we'd have some questions from the diaspora. Yes, we have come to the moment where we will open the lines for questions. We will try and keep it nice and tight and to the point, as time is of the essence, and we want to accommodate as many questions as possible. Now, we had a question from we were talking about theater, but I think that was answered already. So we want to move on to, we have had a question come in from Bernadine in Houston. Yes, I'm looking at the prompter here, Texas. So she's in Houston, Texas. Pierre, how would you ensure that women are visibly involved at the highest level in your administration?
So thank you for that question from Houston, Texas, and it's an important question. And I want to answer it in two parts. I think within the party, National Democratic Congress, on being elected as the party leader, one of the immediate goals I've set out is to ensure that each constituency branch in Grenada has a vibrant and active women's arm. And that is critical because we need to ensure that we are able to on a constituency basis, ensure that we get women to come through the organization and to serve at the highest level. And I think that is important. And from that point, we will then be able to move on to ensure that we get women to serve at the highest level in an NDC administration. And that has to be a deliberate policy. It has to be a deliberate policy. Women dominate and lead most of our households. They care for our children. They oftentimes do not bring the level of egotism that men bring to public and political life. And so it is important that, in fact, we have women serving at the highest level. And certainly under an NDC administration led by me, we will ensure that we do so. So as part of the process of creating the change, as part of the process of encouraging persons to get involved in public life, we are also deliberately targeting women in particular, because we recognize that our society cannot grow and develop without having women in policy-making decisions at the highest level.
Yes, indeed. And, women really have been playing a very, very important, in every political organization in Grenada, the women are the ones who really get outside there and make things happen, you know, Deacon, from, I mean, you know, Gary's time right up. Yes, and so we must be deliberate about getting them involved in the political process at the highest level. So thank you for that. We have another question from Kwesi in Los Angeles, California. So Kwesi asks, I have a huge student loan to be repaid. I believe I'm good in my field and would love to return home. However, there are no guarantees that I would find employment if I do. Apart from the love of country, what will your administration do to attract persons like me to return and participate in nation building?
Right. So Kwesi, thank you for that question. It's a very important question that I think plagues our society, and how do we address it? And let me say this. Part of the challenge we face in Grenada is the lack of transparency in terms of understanding what are the skill set that we need in Grenada and where we can find that. So Kwesi, I'm not so sure what your expertise is in California, but I think the starting point is we need to build a platform. The PRO of the party reminds me that we live in the information age. And therefore we need to be able to mine data. And that means we need to be able to tell our citizens outside of Grenada what are the areas that we need critical skills in or expertise in that we do not have, and be able to match that with the expertise in the diaspora so that we can then attract the right skill set to fill the vacant positions that we may have home. And that is part of what we must be able to use the technology that is available to us to address. So we need to implement a deliberate policy that will in fact do that, because we have critical shortages of skills in Grenada. And oftentimes they are filled by non-Grenadians, without Grenadians in the diaspora getting an opportunity to realize that there's an opportunity for this to take place. So that's one of the critical things that we need to do. But I will also expand on this as well. Nation building doesn't always involve coming to Grenada to build Grenada. You can build Grenada regardless of where you are. And with the technology that is available to us now, Kwesi may very well be able to contribute to nation building in Grenada without having to come to Grenada physically. You know, so many of us work remotely now, and we should be able to use the skill set of our citizens without requiring them to fly into Grenada physically. So it may very well be, Kwesi, that depending on what your expertise is, that we may be able to allow you to assist us in Grenada or even work in Grenada without you having to fly to Grenada. And again, that would address some of the concerns you have in terms of your student loan and being able to pay that back, because it may even allow you perhaps to do two jobs. Given the time zones that we have between California and Grenada, it may very well be that you may be able to work in Grenada and work in California and allow you to pay off the student loan in double time. So we have to be creative, we have to be innovative, but I think it's crucial for us to start really using information, because we're using the information age to help us with finding the right mixes and matches for the challenges that we face.
Well, thank you very much for that. And we have Michelle in Dallas, Texas. What do you think about the educational system in Grenada? What structure will your administration put in place to bring the educational system in line with the 21st century?
Michelle, thank you for the question. I am to a large extent the product of the education system in Grenada. The challenge I think we currently face is whether the education system is producing more Deacon Mitchells or less. We can't all be lawyers or doctors or the traditional professionals. And in a population of 100,000, in fact, we probably saturated with that sort of traditional professionals. The education system in Grenada needs retooling to, in fact, focus on what I just talked about, the information age. We really need to make a concerted effort to introduce coding, programming, and the necessary digital skill set into our schools. And, you know, deliberate action over the next 5 years could begin that process of transforming our education system in Grenada, even if it means importing in the initial stage the skill set and the expertise to implement those programs. There are places like South Korea in which, you know, at 3 and 4 years old, in addition to English, the next mandatory subject is coding. And I think many of us recognize how South Korea has completely, in a sense, over the last 10 years or so, been responsible for a significant portion of the products that we consume, whether it's the Samsung phones and all the Samsung line of products and so on. Now, you may say this is South Korea, so it can't happen to Grenada. But I beg to differ, because ultimately it's the human resource that is important. So for an NDC administration, if we are going to begin the process of transformation, if we are going to begin the process of putting Grenada on the path to deal with the challenges of the 21st century, it must start with the education system. And those are two areas that I've identified as critical. The creative economy is also another part. And so we need to pay attention. And Ricardo earlier talked about the performing arts. That's another area that we need to ensure that is actually formally taught in our schools, both the technique as well as encouraging our passion, and to be supported both in terms of physical infrastructure and in terms of personnel to help train that aspect. There are other areas that we take for granted, and I've been talking about this a lot. Basic life skills like swimming. You see, education is not just going and sitting in a classroom and having a teacher impart knowledge to you. We need to be able to instill in our children, in our citizens, life skills that will serve them well. You know, I've talked about the importance of swimming because we live on an island. Our territorial waters is 75 times that of our land. And therefore, we have to appreciate that our marine territory is larger and perhaps even more significant and more important to our overall development than even the land on which we live on. So again, having an education system that reflects that and that seeks to exploit that is important. And I always give this example. If you wanted to learn to fish in Grenada, how would you learn to fish? If your family is not a family of fisher folk, to a large extent, you're on your own. You know, because our education system has not viewed something like fishing as something that deserves the kind of attention to allow us to teach people how to fish. And I don't think I need to stress the importance of fishing as an economic activity, fishing as a recreational activity, because we have things like the Billfish tournament, where persons from throughout the region come, and it's a major activity and a major economic activity in Grenada. So we have to take a practical view of what education is, and it is not certification. Yes, certification is important, and getting 10 and 15 subjects is important, but we need to teach life skills. And we also need to critically teach our citizens to value themselves, to be confident in themselves, to be confident in who we are as a people, to ensure that in the complex world that we live in, that they can speak up, be counted, and let people know that they stand for what is a Grenadian civilization. And that is critical in my mind, if we are going to counteract some of the challenges that we will face in the world, given that we live in a age of global information transfer. So those are some of the issues we need to address within the education system, not just the formal education system, but we can go on. How do we value our teachers? I think we saw what happened with the whole issue of the 4%. And in my view, terribly wrong this issue was handled. Our teachers don't just help our students to be certified. They spend a significant portion of their time with them. And so our teachers help to form the character of our students, and by extension, the character of our nation. And so we need to recognize that. And it's not just monetary contributions. It's not just how much we pay our teachers, but how much we value and appreciate them. And so an NDC administration will ensure that is reflected in how we treat with, speak to, and discuss the changes that we need desperately to happen within our education system.
Well, thank you very much for that. We talk about education, and it really is about the application of knowledge. It's about being able to function using the knowledge that you have gained wherever you've gotten it to better your life. And so we have another question from Natalie in Sunrise, Florida. Her question: what are your plans to address the increasing interest of Chinese and other foreign interests in the social, economic, and political affairs of Grenada?
Natalie, thank you for the question. I think I can start off by saying that Grenada has always been an open society. Obviously, we were colonized by the British. We gained our independence. We had the intervention or invasion by the United States. In 1983, we were occupied. We had a peacekeeping force here for certainly up until 1985 when we had elections. And we've always been people that welcomes everyone. Grenadians migrate quite a lot, hence the reason for an extensive diaspora. And so we have to recognize that we're small and we're vulnerable. And so you would always have various global powers, partly because of our close proximity to the US, having an interest in Grenada and having an interest in the wider region. I think for us, what is important is that as Grenadians, we need to know what it is we want out of that relationship. I think our history has taught us that we do not need to fight the fight of the global powers. We do not need to get involved in the elephants fighting, because you know what happens as the ants, you're the one who's going to get trampled. So I think what has to happen is that we need to pursue, in my view, a non-aligned approach to foreign relations. We need to pursue an approach that says we're friends of all, enemies of none, and we need to essentially not meddle in the affairs of others.
Yeah.
And we need to ensure that whatever relationship that we enter into and that we continue to promote amongst nations is one that is in the best interest of Grenada. And so that means putting Grenada first.
Yes.
And that is the approach that we will take. We need to ensure that whatever action we take, whatever foreign policy, whoever comes to invest in Grenada, that in fact we ensure that the investment deal is a deal that's in the best interest of Grenada. And I will say this because that requires us as a nation to invest in persons who can negotiate, persons who want to negotiate, persons who recognize that you need to be able to sit with persons, talk, discuss, mediate the best deal for Grenada. Too often, I think our government takes the approach of thinking because you're in power that you can do as you please. And the consequence of that is that the taxpayers and the citizens of Grenada have been left in many cases withholding judgments against the people and state of Grenada for millions and millions of dollars, which we're still paying for. So I think it's absolutely crucial that when we engage in any sort of investment deals with whether it's foreign entities, whether state or private, that if we get to the point that there are issues or disputes arising over those matters, that we're able to sit down and negotiate. And if that fails, that we defend Grenada's position as robustly as possible. Because I'm aware, in fact, that there have been serious instances where Grenada's position was just not defended, where judgments and so on were entered against the state of Grenada because it was not defended. And that, frankly, is criminal. You know, so we need to ensure that we put the business of Grenada first. We need to ensure that we put the citizens of Grenada first in all our dealings with any foreign entity or foreign power. But I will repeat, our history has taught us that we should not get involved in the fights or the squabbles of the elephants. And we should really seek to protect ourselves, and I said to be friends of all and enemies of none. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And we have another question. They're coming fast and furious.
Yes.
Deborah in New York, New Jersey. What is your party's idea for building resilient communities in Grenada?
Right. Deborah, thank you. That really is a topical and current issue, and I'm grateful for the question. I want to talk perhaps first about energy use as well as climate change and our behavior on that. We need to recognize that the planet may not go anywhere, and with the ravages of climate change, it is mankind that is going to be impacted negatively by this. And so we have to begin the process of educating our population to realize that our behavior has a direct impact on our sustainability and our survivability and the resilience of our communities. And so I want to talk, for example, about the fact that we are building, we are constructing in low-lying areas. We are constructing in areas that are prone to flood. When we do that, it essentially is guaranteeing that these will not be resilient communities. And so we have to be able to man up and to be firm that from a land use point of view and from a policy point of view, we cannot keep encouraging building in areas where we know it is likely to flood or where we know the sea is likely to come in, because you would be essentially wasting and squandering millions and millions of resources, right? It's a hard cultural change to accept, but it's a change that we must accept because the sea or the river or the flooding isn't going to change course, right? We're the ones who are going to have to be required to change course. So we really have to engage in a holistic look at our land use policy to ensure that we start addressing some of those issues. That's one. Two, our waste management system is something we need to particularly pay attention to. We've taken baby steps in terms of, for example, banning the use of plastic bags, single-use plastic bags. But we have to appreciate, for example, that the use of plastic bottles is widespread. You know, and again, these require open and frank discussions because it has economic implications. But those are some of the issues that we need to address. You know, our waste management system, the level of plastic that we use in our communities, the level of waste that we use in our communities, recycling. You know, I was in Carriacou earlier this week, and I was happy to see that in Carriacou you have garbage disposal bins that are clearly now identifying plastic use, compost use, recyclable use. Little things like that we need to be able to start within our schools, within our villages, to ensure that we engage upon that. Critically, we need to, in a very serious and targeted way, start reducing our use of hydrocarbons, right? And we need to promote the use of renewable energies, not just stock it, but actually ensure that our policies reflect that, right? Because it will immediately clean up our environment. I think we can talk about how nice and clean the air felt when we had these massive periods of lockdowns as a result of COVID-19. But I think we can't have a virus forcing us to breathe clean air. What we really need to do is begin a policy direction that will allow us to start building resilient communities. And it involves everything from the amount of vehicles on our roads to the question of how much renewable and solar energy and wind energy we use. And so even from a land building and building of properties point of view, we need to start have planning legislation, for example, that will mandate, for example, that we start going green with our energy consumption. We need to have planning laws that mandate that water storage capacity, tanks, cisterns. We can learn from our friends in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. The use of cisterns so that we have our own water storage becomes more and more important, because we have to recognize we live in a hurricane belt. Hurricanes are a threat every year, right? So we need our citizens to understand, therefore, if you are building a new house, not only must you build a standard that is hurricane resistant, but you need to put yourself in a position where for the month or the 2 months after the hurricane, when you have no water supply, for example, that in fact you have your own water. And the best way to do that is to ensure that you construct your house with a tank. You know, so those are some of the simple things we could do to start making ourselves more resilient in terms of some of the macro issues. But you know, we have a lot of work to do in that area, a lot of education to do in that area. And then finally, we need to, given that we as small islands did not really create the challenges of climate change, we need to ensure that we advocate collectively to hold the wealthier and larger nations responsible, and to ensure that they do the right thing in terms of reducing the use of hydrocarbons and in terms of investing in renewable technologies.
Well, thank you very much. And at this juncture, we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back with you. Continue to send those little dollars in, brothers and sisters. Send them in. And we are over to Master Control. See you shortly.
In due time, the polls will open and democracy will call on us to make a choice.
A choice between prosperity and false promises.
We all desperately crave change and progress, but progress favors the prepared.
What does it mean to be prepared?
It means to get registered.
Voting is your right, but you can only take part in the process if you are registered.
Registration is the first individual move you have to take if you want to contribute to the collective effort of national transformation.
Registration is how you can ensure your voice is heard.
Registration is a step in the right direction to bring benefits to all people.
To experience meaningful change.
Registration and voting is the only way to actualize our vision.
Our vision of more jobs and opportunities.
Our vision of better health and a robust agricultural sector.
Our vision of prosperity and nation building.
The ink we must use to rewrite our destiny.
To start a new chapter in our nation's history.
Is in the voters' booth.
And only the registered.
And only the registered have access. Change begins with registration.
Get registered today.
To get registered, visit your parliamentary electoral office in your constituency. For assistance with registration, call 435-1817 or visit our website at www.bringthevote.com. Well, folks, we are back with you, and let me tell you, you all are overwhelming us with these questions, man. They're coming in fast and furious. Now, time will not permit us to be able to answer all of them this evening, but we are taking note so that when we are doing a donate to, we'll get to answer some of them there. But of course, we, over the next few weeks and months, we will be engaging with you all the time, so we will be, referring to the and answering them for you. Before we continue with Dennis in Atlanta, let me just remind you, ndcgrenada.org/fundraiser on this platform, and you can send payments using PayPal or using your credit card. Made payment NDC New York chapter, mail to 0703, Brooklyn, New York 11225. And checks in Grenada can be made payable to NDC and box 1109, Grand Anse, St. George. So please remember that. And we go back to the prompter, and we have Dennis. Dennis, thank you for your question. Dennis is in Atlanta, Georgia. So he asks, economic growth must be inclusive to provide sustainable jobs and promote equality. How would an NDC government achieve these objectives?
Okay. Thank you, Dennis. An NDC government will achieve these objectives by ensuring that the economic sectors that we drive and encourage for economic growth, in fact, encapsulate the vast majority of Grenadians. And that is why we think the productive sector is really the areas that we need to concentrate on. We have the traditional sectors that are productive, like agriculture, agro-processing, which we feel have not been given sufficient attention over the last 2 decades. We have fishing, we have the marine sector, boating, yachting, the tourism sector. And we go back to the creative economy, we go back to the digital economy. Grenada, I would put it this way, mainland Grenada, including Piti Martik and Carriacou, is not more than 110,000 people. And if you factor in the size of our public service as well, and you recognize then that if we encourage growth within the productive sectors that I've just talked about, then we would be in a position to ensure that we have inclusive growth that is sustained and that benefits all citizens of Grenada.
Yeah, thank you very much. Indeed, I'm sure, Dennis, that you are happy with that answer. We move on to Sam in London. In what ways do you envisage the elderly can help to strengthen economic growth and development?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Sam. Thank you for that question. Well, the first thing we need to ensure in Grenada is that our elderly are not actually plunged into poverty. We have a challenge in Grenada where, public servants, you may be aware, Sam has been clamoring to ensure that they are paid adequate pensions on retirement. But it's not just public servants who have to address the question of pensions. It's all of the working class of Grenada. And so social security from a pension point of view, social security reform is something we need to address directly in Grenada. So that's the starting point. We need to ensure that we build a society that doesn't in fact plunge our elderly into poverty. But crucially, many of our elderly are in fact successful. Many of our elderly are in fact wealthy. And so we can certainly learn from their examples in terms of what made them wealthy, what made them successful, so that they can pass on their stories to the next generation so that we can learn from them. And then thirdly, I think our elderly can in fact help us to invest. And we go back to questions like the use of our pension funds and what do we invest in. So that is crucial as part of our economic development going forward. We really do need to use our pension funds, our social security funds to invest in creating more employment so that in fact we can maintain and sustain our elderly. But for our elderly who are wealthy, who are well off, we certainly need to learn from them in terms of having the knowledge transfer. And we certainly need to encourage them, if they can, to share their experiences, to share their wealth with the next generation of Grenadians, so that they could in fact aspire to be like those members of our elderly class that are wealthy.
Yep. And thank you very much. I know that you are passionate about the elderly, and the other thing is that, Deacon, as we look, once we strengthen our health systems, it helps the elderly big time, Absolutely. It impacts their pockets, positively, because we know what happens. Yeah. And the price of medication and all of that. And if we really boost up that health system, we may be able to subsidize that and cause them not to be worried so much. Yeah. Here's another question from New York. What is your position on the value of Caribbean integration? Are you satisfied with the accomplishments of the OECS and CARICOM?
I will take the second part of the question first, and in simple, straightforward terms, no, I am not satisfied with the level of integration within the OECS and certainly at CARICOM level. In many respects, we've really regressed. There's no other way to look at it. And we could just talk about the lack of transportation and the lack of air travel within the OECS and within the wider CARICOM. I mean, it's honestly shameful. Our foreparents did a far better job than we have done in recent times. I mean, you have it's almost non-existent. So we really need to relook the lack of integration. We really need to ask ourselves, why is that happening? And is it because of insularity, short-sightedness? Do we genuinely believe that as small pockets of people within the Caribbean, that we can on our own continue to navigate the significant challenges we face as nations? When you look at the things that we've been successful at, and the things that has brought us stability, if we take the OECS, for example, we've got a single currency. Yeah. We've got the same judicial system. We've got the OECS Secretariat desk. We've been able to pull our resources in some instances when it comes to healthcare in terms of bulk purchasing of pharmaceuticals and so on. So it begs the question, if these are obvious examples of how we've been successful, why are we not pushing for more of it rather than less of it? And again, it goes back perhaps to the fact that our political system is so entrenched where we encourage insularity and parochialism, that we need perhaps a generation change within the OECS politically to ensure that we can continue to foster economic integration, social and people integration amongst the OECS and CARICOM. And so unquestionably, it's been disappointing, the slow pace, but nation building is not instant coffee. Sometimes you start, you stop, and you have to start again. And certainly, as a citizen of the OECS and as a citizen of CARICOM, I certainly intend to champion and advocate for closer integration amongst the region, and not just talk about it, but to ensure that we begin putting policy and infrastructure in place that will encourage that. Because if we are not traveling amongst the region, if we are not getting to know one another, it becomes far easier for us to turn our eyes and turn our backs on one another and to put us in a position where we weaken rather than strengthen ourselves. And there are countless examples that I can give. Let's take our security forces, our police forces, for example. There's nothing preventing us from having a regional police machinery, so that it allows for persons to work within the police force regionally throughout the regions, rather than just in Grenada. The same way we have a single Chief Justice for the OECS, we could have a single Commissioner of Police for the OECS. We can have a single police force and regional security system for the OECS, which in my view allows for a more merit-based system of security, and for greater transfer of skills and knowledge, and for less nepotism. Because if you're from Grenada, for example, and you work in Antigua or St. Vincent and so on, then you don't have to worry that it's perhaps your family and that sort of thing. So I think there are examples of that we can explore and pursue, and sport is another obvious example that we can look at. So certainly I think it's been disappointing over the last 2 decades, and we need to really reignite the flame of OECS integration.
Well, interestingly, that question came forward, and I'm a Federation baby, right? Because my parents met. My father is Grenadian, my mother is Trinidadian, and they met when he went to federal, and she was working with the federal government, and so they met and got married, and here I am, the Federation baby. And I mean, we really have regressed from 1961 going right back. And to think that we have a university that encompasses all of us, and here it is, all this insularity is taking place. So it's really unfortunate, and it needs to be fixed. So I'm glad that your eye is on that ball. We have Another question, New York again. What specifically would you and an NDC administration do to upgrade infrastructure and services in the delivery of healthcare, education, and the skills training in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique?
All right, New York, thank you for the question. And I will start with Petit Martinique first. As I said, I just came from Carriacou and Petit Martinique earlier in the week. And Petit Martinique is lacking basic infrastructure needed for a civilized island. And it's shameful. The jetty that the public uses, and I'm saying the public, the citizens of Petit Martinique and Carriacou, is completely falling apart. That's unacceptable. The healthcare center is leaking. And these are not complex issues to fix. That is completely unacceptable. The citizens of Petit Martinique have pointed out to me that the dentist only comes to extract teeth. They lack basic equipment for cleaning. And that's shameful. I want to shout out the Canadian diaspora because in 2019 and I think in 2018, a group of Grenadians and other OECS and CARICOM citizens, part of the Canadian diaspora, came to Grenada during the summer and devoted their time, their effort, their resources to providing free dental care and dental treatment to the citizens of Grenada involved in 2018 and then to St. David in 2019. And it really was an eye-opener for me because it demonstrated, for example, how much help we need in our oral and dental health care. And I point these things out, going back to Petit Martinique, because this is basic infrastructure that simply requires, frankly, a budgetary allocation and the execution of it. Right? And I'm saying the National Democratic Congress and the citizens of Petit Martinique and Carriacou, and we will certainly advocate on their behalf, deserve better. Right? And so it's our job, even now, before we get into office, to start advocating for and on their behalf when it comes to those issues. If we take Carriacou, for instance, you've got the Princess, you've got the hospital in Carriacou. Again, you have basic challenges where the hospital is not functioning at the level it has to function, and it's compounded by the fact that you do not have regular travel between Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. And so we've had our citizens in Carriacou, unfortunately, die because they could not get efficient transportation to travel between Petit Martinique and Carriacou. So we absolutely have to ensure that we are able to invest in the basic infrastructural needs of our citizens. I highlighted Petit Martinique and Carriacou because to me they are obvious low-hanging issues that we can address. You can't have a situation where our citizens of Carriacou have to charter a private boat or charter a private plane to fly between Carriacou and Grenada to deal with their loved ones. That is simply not acceptable. So an NDC administration will ensure that we put the resources in place to ensure that basic infrastructure is available in Petit Martinique, in Carriacou, to address healthcare in particular. The same thing applies to skills training in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. You are at a marked disadvantage if you have to move from Carriacou to Grenada to learn carpentry, to learn masonry, to learn air-conditioned refrigeration, any of those kinds of things. So we need to ensure that those services are available in at least in Carriacou, right? So that the citizens of Petit Martinique and Carriacou can help. But crucially, we have the opportunity to make Carriacou and Petit Martinique the hub of the Grenadines. If we invest in those issues so that all of the surrounding islands and the citizens of the surrounding islands can come to Carriacou and Petit Martinique and create the kind of educational center that you could convert Petit Martinique and Carriacou in. And crucially, we have to exploit and develop the things that Carriacou and Petit Martinique, I think, have a competitive advantage in. Boat building, fishing, renewable energy. Petit Martinique could clearly be a small island that is run completely on renewable energy. So those are some of the things we intend to promote, address in a very direct, specific way in terms of Petit Martinique and Carriacou. I will just give one example in terms of Grenada when we talk about skills and education. I've been on record and I've indicated that we will establish on a parish basis a skills training center in each parish in Grenada. This is not novel because when I was 4 or 5 years old, literally 2 houses from where I lived on the corner was the skills training center. The property had belonged to the Anglican Church and had been given to the government of Grenada to specifically teach skills training. And people learned auto mechanic repair, sewing, carpentry, mason work, all of it. The building has virtually disappeared. And there are many instances of that. The land is still there, and I'm sure the Anglican Church would probably be happy to donate the land to the people of Grenada, again, if you were going to rebuild back a skills training center. And we take those things for granted. But as I said, the 50 or 60 of us who graduate from a class in high school, it's only 10 of us who are going to become professionals. It's only 10 of us who may have the opportunity to migrate and go into the diaspora. What happens to the other 40 of us? What is the skill set that we are learning? How are we getting ready for the place of work? How are we getting ready to take care of ourselves? Some may go into a government job, some may get a job in an insurance or a bank. But what happens to the rest of us? We need to be prepared to ensure that we don't descend into poverty. And those are some of the basic things that we can address. And crucially, we can find out what is required in the labor market. It's a small place. We can do the surveys. We can do the data mining to say Grenada will need, for example, 50 or 60 welders in the next 4 to 5 years based on the construction activity or the construction levels or the planned hotels or the planned what have you, right? And work back from that. We can say, for example, if the average age of our fishermen are 50 or 60, then we should know that in 10 or 15 years, we will need to be able to replenish. And therefore, we need to be able to train our fishermen. Those things, to me, don't seem that complex. It doesn't seem to be rocket science. And huge countries do that, model that, because you need to be able to ensure that your labor force can, in fact, match what is required in the labor market. And so I want to thank New York for the question. I might have gone on a bit,
That's all right.
but I think it's important, and I'm passionate about it because I really do feel we've let ourselves down by not paying attention to some of those issues.
Thank you very much. I mean, you're right on point. And so we have Cynthia Purcell Fraser from Georgia. The high level of unemployment and underemployment among the youthful population is a cause for major concern. Many are feeling hopeless after being bamboozled with false promises. My question is, what are some of the measures you are planning to implement in order to alleviate the feeling of hopelessness among young people?
Right. Cynthia, thank you for the question. I want to start now with some of the things the National Democratic Congress is already championing. We need to, right now, encourage your young people to start thinking about alternative means of employment. And I'm saying alternative as in not the traditional means. And I therefore want to stress the digital economy. I was speaking to one of the members of the UTAM of the National Democratic Congress on Saturday, and we were discussing a program where we are going to seek to get 5 persons from each constituency, youth, to embark, so that will essentially get us to 50, to 75 persons, to embark upon a course so that they can learn programming and coding. The plan is essentially to write up a proposal that we can take to sponsors, to well-wishers, and to persons who are prepared to help. The cost of the program is essentially $2,000. So if you do 2,000 by 15, then you know what we need, right? And essentially, the plan there is to get these young people to do coding, to do programming, because we are satisfied that just from learning that skill set, they will put themselves in a position where they could begin to earn sustained income, and in many instances far higher than many of the traditional jobs in Grenada almost immediately. The question is, why are we not talking publicly about those opportunities and those jobs and the alternative forms of employment that are available? We need to bring those things to the attention of our young persons. We need to educate them about them, and we need to train them so that they could understand that it puts you in a position where you become a global worker. Because when you're doing coding and programming, it is not for Grenada, it is for the globe, right? And so you recognize that you become a citizen of the world because you've developed a skill set that allows you to work. You may stay in Grenada if you wish, but it allows you to work from almost anywhere in the world. I met a gentleman from South Africa. He came into my office and he said, well, essentially he's a programmer. He bought a boat and he literally lives on the boat and he sails around the world. So I said, so where do you work? He's like, I work on my boat. And I'm like, what do you do? He's like, I'm a programmer. And he says, but the bulk of my money, for example, is paid in the US. And I like Grenada, and I'm thinking about settling here, and he wanted some tax advice as to whether he'd be taxed in the US and so on. Now, I was fascinated by this story because it truly tells you that with the appropriate skill set, you really do become a citizen of the globe. And Grenada is a wonderful place to live in. And so you can work almost anywhere in the world, but be stationed in Grenada once you have the appropriate skill set. So the hope and the message to our youth is just that. With the right education, with the right skill set, you become a global player. Educated in Grenada, you may choose to live in Grenada or not, but the point is you are competing on a global level, and you will succeed. And your remuneration, your benefits will reflect the fact that you're a global citizen. And that is the kind of hope we need to bring to our young people. That is the kind of energy and hope and enthusiasm, we need to say to them that with the right skill set, with the right training, which we will deliver to you, you truly will be successful in Grenada and anywhere else that you wish to work.
And that is fantastic because we are investing in our young people.
Yeah.
We are giving them that fishing rod. You know, we're not giving them a fish. And so, brothers and sisters, we have come to the last question that we can take at this juncture, and it comes from Callan, from London, in the United Kingdom. I bring you warm and fraternal greetings from the United Kingdom, home of many Grenadians yearning for a positive change to our beloved homeland. We in the UK recognize the youths in Grenada were woefully misled with false promises. Today, they are forgotten and there is no hope. Under your leadership, what can the youths of Grenada expect in the short, medium, and the long term? This also relates to youths in the diaspora who want to contribute to the progressive development of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. As political leader, what are your final thoughts about the mission of the NDC and how your party is going to build a better Tri-Island state?
All right. Thank you for the question. I think I want to start by emphasizing that the diaspora and the youth in the diaspora are critical to Grenada as well. And so when I speak here, it is not just to inspire hope in Grenadians and young people in Grenada, but also young people in the diaspora, young people in the Caribbean. Because our islands, our civilization belongs to us. And I think if we read our history, we would recognize that oftentimes it is young people that drives change and transformation. And so we need to encourage our young people to become active in public life, to become active in social life, because oftentimes you are the ones who will drive the change that our society so desperately need. So under the National Democratic Congress and under my leadership, I certainly intend to champion the involvement of young people in all aspects of our lives. And I intend to advocate and champion on their behalf because the future belongs to them. And I've been on record as saying that the future starts now. And if we don't begin the process of change now, we will lose that future. And we certainly do not want that. And so, you know, for the members of the diaspora who are listening to me, part of the reason for us having this and asking for donations, asking for contributions is really for us to show to the next generation of Grenadians that we care about them, that we want to embark upon the change that will enhance their lives, that will improve their lives, that will give them the sense of hope that they so desperately need to know that your station in life is not poverty, that your station in life is not dependency, that you truly, rightfully belong to the world. You deserve to be treated with respect. You deserve to be encouraged. You deserve to be helped so that you could blossom into the full potential that all of us as citizens of Grenada deserve. So to the members of the diaspora, I certainly want to encourage you to continue donating and championing the cause of the National Democratic Congress. We will be having more fundraisers. The hope is that we can get sufficient members, both in the diaspora and in Grenada, to fund the National Democratic Congress as part of this grassroots movement on a continuous basis. As I said, not just around election times, because we want to put the party in a position where we can continue the sort of initiatives that I talked about, where we can find 75 youth and train them in coding or programming so that they can go on to live sustained and meaningful lives. And so in turn, they can help other members of the society and talk about their experiences and talk about the fact that it was the National Democratic Congress that gave them the opportunity and the chance, so that we can replicate this throughout our communities. It may be coding, it may be in sport, it may be in football, you know, whatever foundations that we can use. You know, in the diaspora, there are a lot of charitable organizations that may be prepared to help donate and help persons, whether it's in the medical field, whether it's in the sporting field, whether it's in the education field. We want our members of the diaspora to remember that as well. It is not just financial. There are a lot of citizens of Grenada who are talented, but because of lack of resources, may not get the opportunity to pursue a higher education or to pursue a sports scholarship or any particular field of endeavor. And we would certainly want you to keep that in mind. And when you come across those kinds of foundations or charitable trusts, to refer them to the National Democratic Congress so that we can identify Grenadian youth who would benefit from that.
Well, thank you very much, PL. And let me say on behalf of all of us and those in the diaspora, it was really wonderful having you with us this evening. And let me shake your hand. I mean, I think, you know,
it's a pleasure.
You've been doing a brilliant job so far. Thank you very much. And so before we go, brothers and sisters, We want to remind you to donate funds. Go to the ndcgrenada.org/fundraiser. On this platform, you can send payments using PayPal or using your credit card. Checks in the USA can be made payable to NDC New York chapter, and you can mail them to P.O. Box 250703, Brooklyn, New York 11225. Checks in Grenada can be made payable to NDC and mailed to P.O. Box 1109, Grandin, St. George. So, to all of you who have been with us for the past, hour and three-quarter, we want to say thank you very much to our technical team. Thank you very much. To Ricky, who started off the program, thank you very much. And to all of you, brothers and sisters, especially in the diaspora, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for making it happen. Have a blessed one, and see you soon. Merry Christmas.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the opportunity now to chime in and call in, and let's talk. Let's have a discussion about what you heard here today. I give you an opportunity to call in right now on the live. The number that you call is 718-701-5720. I promise you it won't be for too long. It's probably going to be for like about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we're going to wrap up. So you just heard Deacon Mitchell appeal to the diaspora in a fundraising event. Well packaged and put together event. The question that was submitted on various media platforms. They didn't take any live questions, which I thought that they probably would have taken live questions, but they didn't. But let me know what you think. It's not about what I think, it's about what you thought about the whole thing. So open up the phone lines right now, 718-701-5720. This is your opportunity to chime in. What you think of the format? What you think of the outreach? And for those of you who are, looking to donate as well, if you miss any information, we probably could give you that information right here if you're looking to donate. But in generally, I want to know what you guys think about the event here today. It was a global telebroadcast. I mean, we had multiple platforms carrying this. We got to big up the folks at Growing Up in Grenada who's watching it over there. Sayo, big up yourself. Thank you for sharing our broadcast, and everyone else who's doing that as well. So, again, guys, the phone lines are open. 718-701-5720. Your opportunity to chime in. Tell us what you think. Make sure my audio is good before my producer. Yeah, my audio is good. All right, good. All right, 718-701-5720. Let's kick it off right now. If you want to call in on the WhatsApp, you could call in on the WhatsApp if you're calling from Grenada. If you don't want to make that international call, 718-701-5720. Let me look at the chat. Pull up the chat. Lacey is saying articulate, professional, straightforward, and refreshing. Tahisha Francis Thomas is saying that it was great. Peter Mitchell is saying at least Keith had live questions. Thomas, okay, replying to Peter. This man is a genius. I need to bring that up a little bit. All right, this man is a genius, destined for greatness. Let's make it happen. Shirley Mark is saying that she thought that it was great. All right. All right. I'm seeing your comments. But I want you guys to call in. Let's talk, man. Let's talk. Let me know what you guys feel about it. Let me know what you guys thought about the whole engagement. Let me know what you thought about the event itself, the format. And how much of you guys gonna start donating? All right. Did you get your questions answered? Do you have any concerns? Let me see. Shirley saying that it was great. Lily, what is it? Lillian Pierre is saying that brain speaks. Okay, a Facebook user saying Deacon didn't disappoint. As usual, he is so brilliant. Reading some of your comments right here on the live. Again, guys, the phone lines are open. The phone lines are open. You could call in on the phone lines, or you could call in on WhatsApp. Oswin Lewis is saying that I'm very impressed. Okay. Who else? Let me see. Terry Hancock is saying very hopeful and refreshing. Let me ask you guys a question. Were there something in particular that you were expecting to hear or expecting to get more information on that you didn't? Let's start from there. Were there anything in particular that you wanted to engage Deacon on? Or you had a question that you posted, but you didn't get a question answered? Give me a call right now, guys. Again, the number 718-701-5720. Let's talk about what you just heard here today. Let me see if I could get... Hold on one second. A call just came in. All right. Still reading some of your comments and your thoughts. Esther Matthew is saying that he brings back memories of Maurice Bishop, youthful and intelligent. Asia Noel is saying that the leader is a breath of fresh air. He was very thorough. Nothing was left out. The NDC representative for our upcoming election. Let's take this call right now. Caller, you live. Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn, New York. Go right ahead, Brooklyn. What's up? What's your thoughts?
The guy is young, articulate. He shows lots of promises. He didn't look at the cue cards. He came prepared for the discussion. There was no, stumbling. He just hit bullseye. So I gave him 100%.
Okay.
Maybe I'm too generous, but...
Was there something in particular?
I don't know him. I'm seeing him for the first time, and obviously, I think he's a breath of fresh air. He's very lucky in the sense that he came at the right time. So, in life, time is everything. He just happened to be there at the right time, and I wish him well.
Okay. Thank you, caller.
Just my 2 cents.
We appreciate you. Thanks again. 718-701-5720. We're taking your live call on your reaction on the press conference where Deacon Mitchell engaged the diaspora community. It was an event that was organized by the New York chapter. And it was covered by many different media platforms. For a few folks, as I said, growing up in Grenada, they have it on their platform. I saw Kem Jones here. Kem Jones was on earlier. He was carrying the live as well. So it had a far reach. But let me know if you were satisfied. Let us talk. Listen, let us talk. Whether you felt that there was something more that you needed to hear, something that you heard that you didn't like, something that you heard that you like, whatever it is, I don't care. Let me know what's on your mind. Let's talk about what you just heard. It's your opportunity to chime in. It's your opportunity to react. Live reacting right here on the live. Again, guys, 718-701-5720. We're talking about this event that you just witnessed. Someone said that when exactly they're going to have a second one. And I'm not sure as yet. Vieira Hall is saying, very impressed, very articulate. I'm not sure I missed it, but I didn't hear much about the pandemic. All right, so Hall is saying that she was looking to hear a little bit more about the pandemic, that she didn't hear anything about. Lorraine Williams, I'm very impressed of the young man's vision for the country, blessing. However, he has a lot of groundwork to do. All right, a lot of groundwork to do. I'm on work. I'll be watching to hear if anything important was said. All right. We appreciate everyone's input, guys. We appreciate everyone's input on this topic right here. That's the best thing about social media. All right, responding to Lacey J. Now, listen, it's important that this election or any future election be based on your pocket and your future and your children's future, right? And it's time that, and I said it before, whoever you choose to vote for, that is your business. Whoever you choose to vote for, that is you. But I think it's time that we, the voters, need to hold our elected officials for ransom. We're supposed to hold our vote for ransom. And we have to negotiate, it's a plea bargain, it's a plea bargain kind of thing. It's you meet me halfway, I meet you halfway. And if any elected official, whether it's for the NDC, the NNP, the GOLP or whatever, unless they don't interest you on the topic item, rather than if you like the leader at the top, but is if they are working in the interests of you or your family. We have to hold our votes for ransom. So we need to pay attention. You see that there are so many different shows. Look at what they're saying. Look at every single leader, and don't be afraid to ask the questions. And there are some people that has the blind loyalty to political organization. No matter what, whether it's the NDC or NNP, you need to hold them accountable. Any organization, any political party, you have to hold them accountable and hold that vote for ransom. 718-701-5720. Let us know what you think, what your thoughts are. Keith Mitchell. Okay. All right. Ezron. Hey, DJ Ezzy B. How you doing, my brother? Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Ezzy B. Ezzy B is correcting me here. He said, don't say ransom. Say hold him accountable. Yes. I agree with you, my brother. I agree with you. I agree with you. Because, listen, some people, they are for a political organization based on their great-grandmother, their grandfather, their mother, their aunt. And they just don't even know why they support this organization. It's just because their family support it. But when you look at the political organization, are they actually doing anything to help you or to help the things that you are interested in, most interested in? So this election, because this election is probably going to be a very, very important election because people have so much connection with social platforms. They're hearing, they're seeing everything. People are more educated. The electorate is much more educated and have access to so much information. They're making the decision based on knowledge, from a place of knowledge. Caller, live, where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from Houston,
Texas. Houston, Texas. How you doing? What's your thoughts?
I'm doing good. Junior, from the time that Deacon came out and said he was the leader of the NDC. He is a real poet. He knows the subjects. He studied them. And he answers questions without fidgeting. He sounds like a leader. He acts like a leader. And as a Grenadian living in Texas
Yeah.
for the last 40 plus years and following what's going on in Grenada, I think we have somebody now that's thinking about the people of Grenada, the youths of the Grenada, and the problem that Grenadians are going through. So I think Grenadians in Grenada and Grenadians out of Grenada, we need to stand up and put somebody there to represent us as a people and for the people of Grenada, because we have no representation in Grenada right now.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, caller. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for calling Voice on Record. Again, guys, we're taking your call live, 718-701-5720. You just saw Deacon Mitchell, the political leader of the NDC, in the engagement to the diaspora and a fundraising event. DJ SEB, I just saw your call, but I had someone else on the line, so call us back. Caller live, where are you calling us from?
Miami.
Miami, go right ahead.
Yeah, I listened to this speech though, but you know what, politician, like it's easy for anybody to come in and give a stunt speech.
Right.
But the most important thing is governing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key. Any politician could give you a little stunt speech, and you get carried away with it. But when the main thing is governing, if he could afford, he's a young guy.
Yeah.
My thoughts is to govern, you have to have experience.
Right. Okay.
Experience is the key.
Okay.
And I wish him luck, because definitely, we need a change.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm asking myself, are you ready? Or maybe in the next 5 years you might be ready. I don't know.
Right.
But
right.
governing is a different story. When you hear you on the hot seat, that's a total different story.
Right. How do you gain experience? How, from your knowledge, from your experience of it, how do someone gain experience in leading, and what are some of the strongest leadership qualities?
To me, if you find little community, groups, and and stuff like that, and starting from the grassroots, like that, in little grassroots, community leader and stuff and all of that, you gain experience in this stuff like that. But to jump, listen, I love the guy. The guy is he seems to be, he's honest and everything. It seems to me that. But coming up straight to be from a lawyer and then jumping straight into politics is a total different story here.
Right.
It's good you could talk and you could give stunt speech and everything, yes. But governing, that's the key.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready to govern this country?
Mm-hmm.
That's the key. The people have to ask themselves.
Right. So based if you were independent, I just want to find out if you were an independent voter at the moment, would
I am independent.
Okay,
I am
you're
independent.
You're independent. Okay. So did anything that he said here today would make it more likely to vote for him, or less likely to vote for him? Or from what you heard here today, let me rephrase that. From what you heard here today, does that make you more likely to vote for him or less likely to vote for him?
To me, he have good ideas, good plans, and all of that. As I said, he do have that. People could come up. You know how politicians are. Politicians will come and they tell you a whole set of stuff, paint a nice picture, and when they sit on the hot seat, is a change, because they can't. It's a ball. You think totally different.
Right. Okay.
And you have to have experience to know what you're doing to govern a country. You just don't do it like that.
Right.
It don't work that way.
Okay. How is the best way? And I'll let you go after this. How is the best way you think that someone could gain experience to become a leader of a country?
And I rightly just told you that, gaining experience, like little community groups.
Okay, coming up from the bottom. Okay, I got you. All right. Thank you. Your opinion is your opinion is valid. And I appreciate everyone's opinion.
That's my opinion.
That's your opinion.
That's my opinion.
Absolutely.
Because as I said here, for the guy, the guy is a little fresh air breathing. Fresh air. Yes, it's true. But what I'm having a problem is thinking myself, are you ready to govern?
Okay.
That's the question I'm asking myself.
Okay. Thank you for your input, caller. I appreciate you.
You're most welcome.
718-701-5720, guys. Let me hear what you think. Put your voice on record. What you thought of the press conference here today. And if you are an independent voter, I'm not talking about the people that are hardcore NDC or the people that are hardcore NNP. If you were or consider yourself an independent voter, did you hear anything here today that would make you more likely to vote for the NDC and Deacon Mitchell? Or do you feel less likely to vote for the Deacon Mitchell and NDC based on what you heard here today? Let's take it in that direction. Let me know what you think about it. 718-701-5720. You could call on the WhatsApp as well. Listen, I like to hear difference of opinion, right? So I ain't gonna cut somebody off if they have an opinion about something. I want to hear people's opinion. Caller, where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from Toronto.
Toronto, go right ahead.
Yeah. A lot of people have this idea that experience, that you don't have no experience or stuff like that. If you start that job, on your way on the job, that's where you get experience. If you never do a job, you cannot get experience by only sitting on the side and watch it. You have to actually do the job to gain experience.
Right.
Because if you make mistakes, that's the only way you could correct it is by being on the job. So a lot of people have this idea, like these old people have to be leading us. This time for that has gone.
Mm-hmm.
We need some young minds. And so far, Mr. Dickel has a very bright future in Grenada, I believe, in politics in Grenada. Because the idea that he has, I 100% agree with it. If Grenada don't have no agriculture, only tourism you're depending on, how would it possible that nation develop like that?
Mm-hmm.
That's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, caller, for your contribution. I was saying earlier that I value everyone's opinion. You can't force somebody to think that way and feel that way. People are independent. People feel how they feel because of their own personal experience. So they're not wrong to have a difference of opinion. And that is the thing I think that does annoy me the most about some people. That they feel everyone should share their opinion on it. And everyone should be, tunnel-minded. Exactly, and think and feel the same way how you feel. Nah, let people speak. That is the idea. Let people express themselves, right? If someone call and they say, well, they don't feel that you have the experience, and they could explain and articulate why they don't feel that way, that's how they feel, right? So let's have an open discussion, guys. 718-701-5720. Let me know what you think, what your thoughts. Bernadette Juman say, thank you, my Toronto neighbor. All right. Yeah, someone said to me, experience is like your credit score, right? No one wants to help you to get your credit score up, but they're saying that you have to have a great credit score. You have to figure out how to get a great credit score. It's not just going to just come, and nobody wants to give you anything if you don't have a good credit. So you have to build it, and you have to do it on your own. Here's what I think is I give high marks to leaders, and experience to me is not the main thing I look at. Let me tell you what I look at. I look at a leader who has an ability to appoint and nominate and put people in position who actually know what they're doing. That is the strongest attribute of a strong leader. A strong leader, because you cannot do it all. As a leader, whether you're leading a business, whether you're leading your home, whether you're leading whatever it is, as big or small, whatever it is, you can't do it all by yourself. So a strong leader have the ability and understanding to know that the people in the room, sometimes 80% of the people in the room could be smarter than you, and you're okay with it. You don't need to be the person who feel that you have to be the smartest or the biggest head in the room. It's okay to bring in people who know more than you. And that is the strength of a good leader, to me. So when you look at any leader and you see who they appoint, who they put there, who they have doing that, is it a bunch of people around them who are just yes man or yes women, or people that would just cheer them on as cheerleaders on every interval? When you look at that, to me, I believe that is not strong leadership. I even think that a true leader, and I don't know if we see that a lot lately, we see enough of that lately. When you come in to leadership in a small place like Grenada, most leaders, administration only pick people, most of the times, pick people from their administration, people who support them to hold certain ministries or to do certain important jobs. Right? But the fact is, there are so many other people that's qualified, and sometimes they don't really necessarily support you, but they're nationalistic. They love their country. Why can't a strong leader forget the fact if someone support them or not support them and put them in position because it's for the betterment of the country? That is a strong leader. That is a strong leader, a fearless leader, a leader that not thinking everything is politics or everything is about next election or everything is about a vote. Because, that kind of lead to the same discussion that people have all the time. Some people say politicians are like used car salesmen. When they have the car, they would push you, give you whatever deal at a point in time to sell you that car. Yeah. They don't care most of the times. After you get that car and you go, they already got what they have to get, and you done gone. They get the money and they gone. So that is the perception a lot of people have about politicians. But we need to see a leader who is fearless about election. They don't care about, they do things for the betterment of the country. You do it from your heart. You do it because it is you. It is you. In your heart, you feel that it's good, whether it's politically correct or not, whether it's going to get your votes or not. You just love to do stuff. You love to help people. Anyway, guys, 718-701-5720. That's my take on true leadership. All right, Marsha said, Junior, that would never happen. No, but that's what I'm telling you. If you own a business, right? You own a business. And let's take it from a very small business, bit size. And you need to appoint three important roles in that business: a CEO, a CFO, and a secretary. And you're looking around, your brethren who been hanging around with you for the past couple of years, he always around with you. He don't really know how to manage a business, but he's a real boy. Is your homie. He been with you. You look to the side there, you see someone well qualified and have the paperwork. A true leader would not necessarily just give the job to a brethren. He will look and say, well, you are the qualification, and I think you would be represented more in the CEO position. I'll put you there. Because at the end of the day, you don't want a bunch of yes men around you. You don't want a bunch of people around you that everything you say is yes, yeah man, yeah, use the best, use the God. That is the failure of leadership, I believe. That's just my personal opinion, guys. I think that is the breakdown in leadership. When you have leaders who ignore the big picture. The big picture is we need to go someplace. We have work to do. And there are qualified people who could do it, and there are friends of ours that could do it. A leader appoints the qualified people, not afraid to be not necessarily the brightest one in the room. He understands. Down, bottom up kind of leadership. As a leader, and that's the last thing I'll say about leader, then I'll move on. As a leader, you have to see it like this. The customer, the people is on top. You is at the bottom. That's how it is. Because even as a CEO of a corporation, your customers, the people, are the most important factor in your business. Because if you don't have customers, you don't have business. And it comes down, it comes down, it comes down. You are at the bottom of the chain. I think that is the way how leadership is supposed to be. If you see yourself at the top, you go treat everybody below you like shit. 718-701-5720. Let me know what you guys think about this. And also, I asked a question the other day, about leadership. And, people said, the strength of a leader, I believe it said the strength of a leader is in how he treat people. And that is true. I believe so as well. The strength of a leader is how he treat people. Honesty. Some people said honesty. Yeah, sometimes. But I believe the strength of a leader is being able to put strong people in place and see this thing as a top-down approach. The people are at the top. If you think like that, you don't think that you could mistreat anybody, because if you don't have the people, if you don't have the all these things that make up the country and make up your company, if you don't have all these things, you don't have a country, you don't have a company. In essence, you don't have nothing. That's re-envisioning leadership, I guess. I don't know. Re-envisioning leadership. That's probably how it is. Someone asked they said to explain a little bit more about the holding your vote at ransom thing. Yeah, listen, I really think so, I think we need to hold politicians accountable and bargain with your vote. Don't just vote because everybody voting for this one. Everybody like this one. Your whole family voted, the people in your community voted. No, what is that person, what is that political organization doing for you and your future and your children's future? You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised when you really start to ask the question and you'll be like, but why am I giving this person my vote? Why am I voting for this person if this person don't represent nothing that I care about? Why am I voting for this person? Why? Because my mother voted for them? My father voted for them? My sister and everybody? No. Why am I giving this person this vote if he doesn't even concern himself with climate change, and you are a person who looking at the future and you're seeing what climate change is doing? Why am I voting for this person if they don't care about my bottom line? At the end of the day, that's important. Let's take a call. Caller, where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from Grenada.
Grenada, go right ahead.
Yes, so I was just wondering, I keep hearing every day that Deacon is not ready, he's too young. But the question I want to ask is, what was the age of the present Prime Minister when he went into office? Was he experienced? Didn't he gain experience while he was in office? So we need to get off this thing about Deacon doesn't have experience.
Right. Okay.
That's my take. Yes, you get experience by doing the job. When you become a mother, you get experience by taking care of the child. You wasn't born a mother.
Right.
You make a child, and you learn to be a parent.
Okay.
He's learning there. You see, we stuck too much in the past. We're not ready for what is going on in the world. We need a change. Too much of the same thing. Too much of the same thing. And people need to understand 33 years is enough. We need a change.
Right.
I am 54 years, and we need a change.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you so much, caller. We appreciate you. Appreciate your input as well. 718 SEB, call me back. Call me back. SEB, you just called when the caller was on and I couldn't cut her off. But I want you to call because I want to hear your input on it. SEB is a fellow radio personality in ATL. So SEB, call us back so I could get your point of view on it. 718-701-5720 if you want to call straight or if you want to call on the WhatsApp. Hey, Akeem Lewis, how you doing? You could also call on the WhatsApp again, 718-701-5720. Yes, okay, that's my virgin calling. Hey, DJ SEB, how you doing, sir?
What's up, my man?
How is everything?
Everything is good, my brother. Everything is good, and I'm glad you're having this conversation, Diggy. Of course, I think it's in the right time now for us to have this conversation, to have this dialogue.
Right. Right.
I'm not big on politics.
Right.
But over the years, man, what we've seen happening in our homeland, I think any change is good right at this point. And I think, like I stated in my comments earlier, the new world that we're living in, man, the country hasn't changed or adapted to this new technological era that we're in today. And our youths are being restricted or limited as a result.
Right.
And I think having a new mindset, a new change of how things are done and moving forward, I think is welcome. And I think a lot of the younger generation could relate to this new era of politics in Grenada.
Right.
And I welcome it. I love what I'm seeing so far. I'm excited about it, as a matter of fact. And like I said, I'm not big on politics, but I'm looking to make a contribution and support as much as I can, because I think the change can definitely benefit a lot of the people and the things that I've seen from outside.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I spoke to someone just yesterday, Junior, who actually was moving back. Well, not moving back permanently, but trying to establish themselves back home, and they ship stuff down, like the vehicles and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And the amount of monies that person spent to bring things that will benefit themselves, their families, and to possibly go back and make investments back in Grenada was ridiculous. Right. And, if you are, or me is looking to move back to Grenada, for example, it is not encouraging at this point. So the change that people are thinking about goes way beyond what is needed at this point. And I think this new, if this Dixon Mitchell will be elected,
Dixon Mitchell, yeah.
I think it's going to be great for all of us, man. I think it's going to be great for the nation as a whole.
Right. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, SEB, for your input on this topic. Big up yourself. Thank you so much. 718-701-5720. We're talking about what you heard earlier today. What your take on it is. How you feel? How you feeling about it? Now, one other thing I want to speak on, right, is managing expectation. And it's important that everybody, including Deacon Mitchell and the NDC, and any organization that is thinking about getting into, especially being in the forefront of politics right now, managing expectation, Jed. Because let me tell you, I think where we are right now, We're in a horrible place. Yeah, we're not in a good place. Caller, low down your audio in the background a little bit. Hello?
Yes, hello. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, caller. Go right ahead.
Yes, good afternoon. I am in Brooklyn, New York, and I am very, very impressed with Deacon Mitchell's press conference with that person.
Right.
And we as young people, Grenadians, in the diaspora here and back home and wherever they are, should take up this leadership, because that caller that called and talk about experience. When you look at many political leaders, look at Trump. He didn't have experience, but he went in there. He made 4 years and they get him out. I think we should support that young Deacon Mitchell. I am impressed. He sung like Maurice Bishop. You know, a lot of people talk about his eloquentness, the way his humbleness. And I see my country, Grenada, reaching to, further distance, because, we need a sense of change. And my thing is about the caller that talk about experience. When you have a baby,
right,
the baby don't just born and it started to walk. It
Right.
had to have some kind of stability. As you as the mother who produced this child, the baby's going to cry and crawl, and then eventually you have to walk, because you have to do the certain things before you grow up as an adult. You have to go through the process of it. And my thing is that we as Grenadians, we need to support, we need to donate, and we need to be behind him and help him and pray for him. And my last thing about it, so many comments about hatred, about this one and about this party. I think we as Grenadians, I don't care whether you vote for NNP, NDC, whatever party you're affiliated with, I think we should change our attitude
Yes.
as Grenadians to how we vote for our party. We don't need to be rationalized like tick for tack with other people on social media.
Yeah.
We're supposed to respect each other. Our attitude needs to change, because at the end of the day, whoever we vote for, we're still Grenadians. We're still
Yes.
going to knock glass. We're still going to say hello and hi to each other.
Yes.
We have the problem is that we have different views across the table.
Well,
But at the end of the day,
I'm happy that you said that. I'm very, very happy.
yes.
that
At the
you said
end
that.
of the day, we have something in common, which is betterment for our country.
Yes.
So we have to support him instead of bashing him. People don't know him, but I see the comment and it was very, very, ridiculous and childish and nonsense. Instead of bashing him, listen to him, because
Right.
mind you, leaders before him, they didn't have experience. Trump, who is Trump, who just left office, he didn't have experience.
I get you, but I don't think bringing in Trump into this, because Trump,
That is true, Junior. That is true, but because
But I get you. I understand. I understand where you're going.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
yes, we need a change. We need a
Okay.
change. Thank you, Junior.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Bye-bye.
cool. 718-701-5720. I don't think she needed to mention Trump in it, because the truth about it is Trump didn't have no experience and he acted like he didn't have no experience. And okay. Now I was speaking about managing expectation, and that's important, because any leader that come in here right now, or they don't believe that everything is just gonna come like you're gonna get everything that you want and that's gonna happen tomorrow. It's not gonna happen, guys. This pandemic, I don't even know. Listen, that is the worst time, I believe, for someone who trying to push their agenda to even be in politics. I believe, me personally, that's how I feel. This place is so messed up and will be so messed up for a good few years that the next election, the next few years, I believe is going to be difficult to fulfill a lot of political agendas, no matter who come into power. don't matter who, it gonna be difficult. It gonna be hard. So all you don't sit there and feel, say the NDC were to come in, or say it was TGM or NNP or whoever. Don't feel like your life could just change tomorrow. It's not going to happen like that. And I think that the politicians and them, whoever is out there right now, they need to let people, don't let people feel like this is the silver bullet. This is going to change everything. Yeah, everything is going to be the best. Unemployment is going to be vanish. Everything is going to be perfect. Nah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You need to manage expectation. The next thing that she said I want to talk about, while I wait for the caller to come in, is some of all you did. I just watch and I just read some of the comments that all you make. You know, everybody's entitled to their opinion, right? Anybody is entitled to act how they want to act, be what they want to be, support who they want to support. Now, with that being said, why all you just spend so much time, so much energy out of your day fighting and cussing back and forth with people who doesn't support or endorse the same ideas that you support? That is how they feel. You can't change everybody's mind. They may not support a political organization that you support because they just don't support. They don't share the same ideals or ideas like you. Some people keep enemies, I telling you, neighbors all other time in the year. They want something, they go by the neighbor, they get some sugar, some flour, some whatever. But when you see election time come, they don't want to see the neighbor. In fact, them and the neighbor share community walkway, you know. Both of them want to walk in the same yard to go to the house, and they bitter enemies. That's crazy. Politics ain't supposed to send all you crazy like that. Because at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, you and the person that you're cursing, both of all you love Grenada. Both of all you love all your country. Both of all you have go in the same direction, you know. At the end of the day, both of all you care for all your country. Both of all you care for all your country. But one might just have a different way or a different idea. But that doesn't mean that they don't care, that they don't love, that they're not patriotic. But instead, cussing and fighting and... Lacey JC are talking to you. It's true. All your cussing and fighting. Let me tell all you something, and I said this already on this program, and it's true. When all you see them politicians and them meet up, half of them go and drink a beer, knock a glass, play a game of domino, while all you fighting and all you cussing and all you hating one another and all of this stuff. This is not progressive. Especially around election time. Find the most unprogressive, unproductive time. This one I want to sell to this one because this one is an NNP. And let me tell all you something. Let me take the call. Oh, come back. Call live, where you calling us from?
I'm calling from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, New York. Go right ahead.
Let me slow down my radio a little bit.
Yeah. Turn it. Yeah, I'm hearing feedback.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, it's so unfortunate that we're spending a lot of time talking about experience. And sometimes we talk about age. But let's talk about the experience.
Right.
We have a prime minister today who boasts that he's the father of the house. He's been in politics for 37 years.
Right.
Let us take a minute and itemize what his 37 years of experience have brought Grenada. Guaranteeing of bad loads for fly-by-night investors. Mount Hartman, 34 million US. Fly-by-night investors draw down on the monies. The investor took Grenada to court. We not only had to pay back the $34 million to the bank where we guaranteed, but we had to pay him as well. That's one. We gave away Queen's Park to an inexperienced developer, call him but in Trinidad. First we said the stadium wouldn't cost us 1 penny. And we went and we borrowed 100 million US. The first sign of the high wind in Ivan, the stadium collapsed. $400 million. We borrow from international banks for the stadium, and we borrowed 35 million from the Taiwanese. The Taiwanese took us to court because, again, with experience, we unceremoniously kick out Taiwan from Grenada. They took us to court, and in 26 Federal Plaza, a judgment was secured against Grenada. So, as a result of the 37 years of experience that we have, we have a government who amended Section 8 of the Finance and Audit Act, January 12, 2001. The act said government cannot loan money to private individuals or private companies. With his 37 years of experience, he amended Section 8 of the Finance and Audit Act to enable government to stuff down $22 million of taxpayers' money. Yes, those hungry mouth Grenadians that you're calling them now. $22 million out of that money stuffed down in his auntie-children's pocket in a sham called center. WRB. Grenadians today are paying the highest cost of electricity in the region. WRB. In his campaign, he stood on the platform and he said, WRB, behave yourself. He used his experience, the 37 years experience that he has, he used it to pass a law in Parliament demanding WRB give 5% of the pre-tax profit. WRB said, no, that is anti-business. They took the matter to the International Settlement and Dispute. That court came down on Grenada with a heavy hammer. $65 million plus 9 million US that government spent for the lawyers. That is 37 years of experience. Okay, we look at.
So you're saying so you say hold on, Colin. So let's wrap up that session here. So you're saying that with the years of experience that the current administration have, they have still made a surplus, a huge amount of mistakes, even with the experience.
Over $1 billion of our national debt we are paying back for irresponsible loans, bad guarantees, okay, to fly-by-night investors. So here we have it. If a new person takes over as Prime Minister of Grenada, there's public officers who would guide you along as to the procedure. When Dr. Mitchell got into office in 95, he didn't have no experience as Prime Minister, but he had experience as a minister. He hired then Gloria Payne to walk him through the system, the public service, how the public service functioned, and he was able to do so. One of his first acts was to allow Ambassador Lely to dig up the whole of Queen's Park on a fake promise because again of his experience in government, and the country suffered. Grenada has suffered tremendously, significantly, as a result of Dr. Mitchell's 37 years of bad experience. And today we are talking about his age. His age is not the problem. All the damage that was done to Grenada under the new National Party was done by Dr. Mitchell in his prime. So experience and age today, I don't think we should take that into the campaign. At least I don't feel it is a good platform to sell to the Grenadian people.
Okay.
There are ideas here that needs ventilation, okay? Lots of ideas. As it stands now, we have a broken education system, a broken healthcare, hopeless youth, a collapse of the rural economy, collapse of agriculture, and so on. And we need to concentrate on selling this message and asking the Grenadian people, are you satisfied with where you are today? The new National Party over the years with 37 years of experience has built up an institution of poverty. The first problem a new government will face, how you dismantle that institution of poverty that was set up by Dr. Mitchell and the system that he has in place, the handouts in the constituency office for school books, Imani, Seed, and all of those social programs that ensured Grenadians remain in poverty for the rest of their life. So today we have to get rid of the 37 years of bad experience that Grenada had and chart a new course forward. My brother, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your input. We're taking your calls right here, guys. 718-701-5720. We're going to take 2 more calls and wrap it up for tonight. I want to know what you guys think about what you saw earlier and the question of experience. The question of experience. And I see Peter Mitchell made a statement earlier, and he said that he'll give Deacon Mitchell a break, but after 2023, not this election. Yeah. So Peter is saying that he will give Deacon Mitchell a break, but sometime in the years to come. All right? Okay. Got you. All right. So while we're waiting on the next call to come in, let me say this again. Let me go back again on what I was speaking about the vitriol and the hate and the back and forth that we see with neighbors and friends coming down to election time. Listen, I've been called NNP, NDC, GO. If I speak to, if we have a guest on the program and they represent a NNP platform, I'm a NNP, I'm a NDC. I had people that even message me and say, "Oh, I'm not watching your program again because you are dirty NNP or you are dirty NDC." Listen. So what if someone represent or vote or choose to vote for a political party that they favor? People get so upset, and for the life of me, I don't understand. It's about nationalistic. It's about, do you love your country or do you not love your country? Not hating on somebody who decide to vote left or right. It's my point of view on it, guys. People get genuinely upset. Sally ain't talking to Annie no more because Annie's a Garyite. Annie's a Garyite. All right, Sandra Davis says, Junior, if you had the opportunity to vote in the next election, which I will be voting in the next election, who will you vote for? That is my business, right? Me personally, that's my decision to make. But here is who I would consider voting for, because I'm an independent, right? Here's who I would consider voting for. I would consider voting for anyone who address some of my concern. So I'm not going to just vote for someone because they have a particular leader at the top. I'm not going to vote for that. I'm going to look at the track record of whoever I choose to vote for. And as SEB say, I'm going to say, I'm going to hold my vote like this. And I'll be like, so, what have you done for me lately? What have you done for my people lately? And anyone that could best answer that question, and I feel like suitable, and I see that that person have a plan, they have a plan, they have a blueprint in how they get in there. And they're not just, throwing out all kind of random things, because, politician good for that. Politician is good for just getting people to vote for them. But no, what have you done for me lately? And what would you do for me? And what would you do for my people? How could we get to that point? And the best one of them to answer that question, I'll vote for them. Any one of them who answer this question, that's the one I'll vote for. Because I'm straight up independent. I tell you guys this, I'm straight up independent. I'm straight up independent. And I'm watching. And you should be too. You don't vote for someone because they have a nice leader. Or your whole family voted for them 10, 15, 20 years ago. Look at them and see what they represent, what they've done, what they're doing, what their plans are. It's true. And there's nothing wrong with someone saying that they're an NNPite and they're a strong supporter of the NNP. That's fine. I love you the same way. If someone is at NDC, it's fine. I love you the same way. We're friends. I don't care who you have admiration for. Probably the NNP in the past or now have done some good things that help your constituency or where you're from. You know, they did some good things and they continue to do good things. So why not vote for them? Yeah, hell yeah, vote for them. Yeah. But you shouldn't demonize someone who don't feel or express the same political thought like you. All right, so Como is saying, well, Junior, based on what you said, you'll be voting NDC. That's funny, by the way. That's funny, by the way. Listen, I am a straight up independent. I'm a straight up independent. I'm friends. I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret here. I am friends with everybody in the NDC party. The new executive, the old executive. When I was in Grenada last election, I was at the NDC rally, then I went to the NNP rally. I wear a green shirt, then I go to the NNP rally and I wear a yellow shirt. Then when I get a chance, I wear a red shirt. I wear all kind of shirt. People puzzle as hell, right? I know everybody in the NNP party. I could call any one of them up right now on the phone and we're having a good conversation. I'm in Grenada. I have no problem with the ministers. Me and the ministers are friends. All of them. From the Minister of Health to the Minister of Education, I have them on my WhatsApp. Sometimes I message them and I say, hey, how you doing? What's up? I don't hate them. No, I don't hate none of them. Because what? They are from different parties. I don't care. Those are my friends. NNP, NDC, GOLP, TGM. It don't matter to me. Some people are just different, I think. Anyway, guys, I've said enough. My time to go. My time to go. But I'll let you guys know this, that I will be voting in the upcoming election. I will. I'll be there. I'll be in Grenada and I'm going to be voting. I'm not going to be telling anybody who to vote for. I'm not going to be endorsing any political organization. And right along, you go see paid programming from NNP. You go see paid programming from NDC. You go see paid programming from TGM, GOLP, everybody. You go see paid programming from every organization who choose to come on this platform to air political advertisement. That's what we are. We're a media company. That doesn't mean that I vote for them or that I will vote for them. All right? I would vote for the organization or the party who I deem or I think will do and is doing, and who I believe will continue to do beautiful things for the country. That's who I would vote for, because I'm straight up independent. Straight up independent. But anyway, guys, it's Sunday. Gotta go eat dinner. And I have a little hangout to do as well. So I gotta go. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for being a part of our programming today. Remember, this was a paid event. The coverage of this event was covered by the NDC New York chapter. And I appreciate everyone who shared, who liked, who commented. No, I don't look at how the wind blowing. No, Sandra, no, I don't look at how the wind blowing. Nah, I'm more like a swim upstream. Not even upstream. I don't look at popular opinion to dictate who or what I should do. I don't look and see what Jane and Tom and Sally and Drew is doing to decide on what I have to do. I make my decision, and you should too, based on informed information, make informed decisions. So I'm not going to just wait and see where the breeze blowing, and if I find a lot of people supporting NDC, I'll be like, yeah, I'll go on and support NDC. No, that's not how I make my decisions to vote for anybody. But I'm a straight up independent, straight down the middle. And folks who know me close and best, they know that about me. But anyway, my time to go now. I'll catch you guys. Have a good rest of the Sunday weekend. Thank you so much, Rudy, Blackburn. We appreciate you guys. Tomorrow, we have a date, 6 p.m. on the ride. All right, 6 p.m. on the ride. I want to see you guys here. We have a very, 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 very big show for you tomorrow. I want you guys to check it out. On the behalf of all our team here, our senior producer, Lois JJ, big up yourself. Our moderators, Deanne Fraser, Gail Charles, and Kibi. Thank you guys so much. Junior, I'm Barmit. No. No. I don't need a thermometer. No. I cannot test my own temperature. I get the feel. I know who I should vote for based on how that person will represent for me, my people, and my country, based on how I feel about it. I don't go with the flow. I'm like a salmon. What do you say? Swim upstream? Something like that. Anyway. Peace out, guys. Catch me tomorrow at 6 p.m. Good night.
Get your PCR test in 30 minutes or less. Visit www.allprolab.com.